recording as well, and we can start. Okay.
Yeah, I have started the streaming.
The recording as well, if you want.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's okay. So we're all set.
Okay.
Let me just.
Yeah, it's okay. No problem.
I'll be starting as you.
Yes.
Yeah. So is it okay?
It's okay.
Ready?
Inshallah.
Shall we go?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Okay.
Ready,
So
set, go.
good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another webinar session, which will be delivered by Professor Yusuf Temer. These webinar sessions are provided by the doctoral program Language, Culture, and Society, affiliated to my Faculty of Letters, Human Sciences, Mohamed 50 University in Rabat. Those who have been following us know that this is, I don't know what session it is. At least it's more than 10 sessions we have been having since we started since May already. It has been nearly a month now, or a month since we have started our webinar sessions. So today's session, as I have mentioned, is provided by Professor Yusuf Temer from Ibn Zuhr University, Agadir. Would like to start by a brief, and of course, Professor Yusuf has provided really a brief bio. He can tell more about his activities and research interests while he is presenting his lecture. So Professor Yusuf Temer is a professor, an senior professor at the Faculty of Letters, Ibn Zuhr University in Agadir. He's a professor of applied linguistics, so at the Department of English. His research interests are teaching and learning of languages, social linguistics, language planning and language policy, and educational technology. He is the founder and coordinator of a vocational BA program, TEFL, not TOEFL, but TEFL, an ICT from 2009 and 2012. He's founder and coordinator of the master program TEFL again, an ICT from 2012-2015, and he's the founder and member of a master program Applied Linguistics and ELT. Since 2016. He has coordinated a number of national and international conferences on applied linguistics. He has also published a number of articles, and of course, I would like him to refer to the articles he has published, and I would like to ask him even to share those articles if he accepts, because this is the objective of this session as it has been announced. So Professor Yusuf Temer will be presenting a lecture about how to write and publish a good scientific paper. And every one of you knows how important it is to publish nowadays, both for university professors, but also for doctoral students, because as you know, doctoral students cannot defend their thesis if they have not published 2 articles. Of course, it says the ministry or the law says in index journals, but we all know the challenges students face in reaching the index journals, and this is why Professor Tamer is here today to tell you about how actually to prepare yourself and get ready for publishing in indexed or peer-reviewed journals. So his presentation deals with both the preparation phase of a scientific paper and the editorial peer review process. So in the first part, he will describe a roadmap or provide a roadmap to guide young researchers through the preparation and writing of the research paper. In the second part, he will outline the tasks of the editor, reviewer, and publisher, as well as describe the editorial and peer review process. So without further delay, I would like to give the floor to Professor Youssef Tamer to start his lecture. So thank you, Professor Youssef, for being with us. I'm very really pleased to have you with us. And actually, I would like to thank you for taking the initiative and reaching out to me to ask me to get involved in our training program. I'm really very appreciative of this initiative. And I am also, I should mention that Youssef Tamer was one of my students long ago when I started my career as a university professor back at Hassan University, Hassan II University in Mohammedia. So welcome, Youssef, not as a former student and as a current day colleague.
Yes,
so thank you again.
Much. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Very nice of you, what you have said. And it's a pleasure for me to participate with you and all the team that you are having there in Rabat. Rabat has been my home for some years, you know. I did my third cycle there in 1996. And after that, I got involved into PhD. I was registered in Rabat. So that's why I defended my PhD. So I have some nostalgia for Rabat, okay? It's a pleasure for me really to work with you and to be with you and to share with you some of the things that I can as far as my knowledge goes, as far as my experience goes. Coming back to the issue of topic of our, for today, publishing or writing and publishing research papers. I just want to insist on a few things before I go into my slides. First of all, in Morocco, there is recently, it has been going on, but it's going to be even more focused on, which is the fact that the ministry is working on a reform for PhD altogether, and especially in terms of reform for the criteria of defense and success in PhD. So we already know that in other faculties, I'm not talking about faculties of letters, if just my neighboring faculty, for example, faculty of science, they have one criterion there for a student to defend his thesis, at least one publication should be done. So this is a criterion for the student in order before submitting for the defense, is there any published work or no? Which means that insisting and focusing on pushing the students to do publications is going even further. And I think the ministry most probably will make this general, not only for faculty of science, I think it will be even for faculties of letters, human science, and other disciplines as well, most probably. Why? Because they want to improve the quality of the researcher in Moroccan context. And one way of doing that is to involve the students in publishing nationally and internationally. This is very important as well. Okay.
Youssef, may I interrupt you? I'm sorry.
Yes,
Professor Zaderi, it seems that the link to the Zoom room is locked. Can you please find out what is wrong with the link, because some people are not able to join the room? And can you remove the poster so that Youssef can share his? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No problem. Welcome. This is technology. Just to make this clear from the very beginning, we always have to be ready when dealing with technology. So we have to be careful and to be flexible and to be open to whatever can come in front of us. The other thing I wanted to say is that
It's fine.
the number, yes, good. So the number of students who are doing now PhD in Morocco is getting more and more. It is getting more students are doing PhD, which means that the competition in the market certainly will be very tough. That is to say, the universities and the faculties and the professors who are going to do the recruitment and etc. And they are going to push their students to be up to the level. So that's one way of doing that, is to push them forward into publishing research papers. So that's why I think that this is another reason why doing a research paper is very important. I'm talking about the guidelines for doing that. Now, let me share with you the screen, not to be long, because I already have a lot of things to share with you today. So my desktop. Good. Everybody sees the screen? Okay. So today I'm going to, okay, let me move. Okay, I don't know why it doesn't move. Okay. So on the whole, so on the one hand, writing and publishing good scientific papers is an essential pillar, an integral part of academia. So it is an important part of academia, not only for promoting research in professional life, but most importantly for disseminating research results. So it's important for a professional career, but it's also important for disseminating research. Moreover, publications are a measure of the academic productivity needed for promotion. So if anybody wants to, once they are recruited, of course, in order to be promoted, the focus is on academic productivity. On the other hand, writing could be one of the most challenging aspects of academia. So when people want to produce and to write, there will be frustrations, there will be stress, difficulties in class. Many students, many people let down the work at all. So furthermore, it could be difficult, stressful, frustrating, and time-consuming for the person who is doing research. So that's why it is a difficult task. So fortunately, in order to overcome all these obstacles, in order to go forward into publishing, in order to go forward into improving one's career and productivity, etc., there are some strategies and guidelines that a researcher that can follow to overcome the obstacles during the writing and publishing processes, and hence the purpose of today's presentation. So the aims of the lecture, the aim, first of all, as you have mentioned already, Professor, in the introduction, the aim of the presentation is to synthesize some useful practices, tips and tricks existing in the relevant literature to help researchers, especially the young ones, because we know that the most professors already know this stuff and they do apply it, but especially for the new researchers to write, to structure, and to publish their scientific papers. This presentation deals with both preparation phase, and then the editorial peer review process. By the way, this the amount of information with regard to this topic is really large, okay? So I have done my best to come up with the most important things, and just to give you an idea about how to go forward regarding writing and publishing scientific papers. So the first part will describe the young researcher roadmap that guides them throughout the preparation and writing of the research paper. The second part outlines the tasks of the editor, the reviewer, and publisher. So we will go not in detail, but very very quickly about the editing process, the review process, just to have an idea before one can go into that. And then we conclude with the presentation with a summary, okay, with a summary of the guidelines. So the discussion agenda for today, we will start with this. So what is the definition of a scientific paper, briefly? Why publish? Why the research process, or what is the research process? The writing process, important factors of research paper, writing qualities, so some criteria for writing quality, scientific paper structure, what is the structure of a scientific paper, and its characteristics. And here we will start with, first of all, with a general overview of all the sections at once. And then I will go into each one into a very small details, very bit of detail. So we'll start with talking about literature review, the methods, the results, the discussion, conclusion, introduction, abstract, title, keywords. The scientific, and then I move to talk about the scientific paper submission process. And finally, the criteria that journals or conferences apply in accepting or refusing the research paper. So what is a scientific paper? Robert Day, 1983, defines a scientific paper as a written and published report describing original research results. It is a written report. It is a published report. You need to publish it in order to describe the results of the research. Day claims that scientific papers have to meet certain requirements regarding how the paper was written and the way it is published. So for a paper to be called a paper, there should be some requirements to be respected, either for the writing process or for the publishing process. Regardless of the publication outlet, a validity or a validly published scientific paper must contain the following. It must contain first disclosure of results, that is to say the paper should communicate the results of the research with sufficient information, and then to assess observations. This, when we publish this results, it will help the others in academia, in the relevant literature, to assess the observation, to assess the results. So they were going to be investigating you in some way. Were you right? Were you wrong? Etc. Then after this, there might be some people who will repeat. So this is number 2 here. Repeat experiments. They might do the experiment, the same experiments that you have done, and they will do that. And then to evaluate the intellectual processes. So these are some of the aspects of a scientific paper. Then why published? I want to come back to something that's my generation and all generations before used to witness when they were PhD students. I still remember when I was a student back in 1996, 7, 8, 98, 99, the situation is different from nowadays. And the proof is what is happening now. Now, the students, the PhD students you have in your laboratory, your training, they are benefiting from trainings, many trainings. And this in the past was not true, okay? It didn't happen. So we were just, to some extent, left by ourselves to go forward into the research process and doing the PhD. So, and that's why, while immersed in research, young researchers struggle with challenges of integration. Integration in the doctoral, okay? Doctoral training into the research, doctoral research, and so on. They must cope with different academic traditions, different methodologies. So they are new, so they are coping. They are trying to find their way out. Different methodologies, distances separating research teams, difficulties in leadership and personal chemistry, lack of common terminology, and suitable organizational infrastructure, and the additional time needed for integration. So that's what the PhD student goes through when he is doing PhD. So there are a lot of reasons to demotivate the new researchers. Now, frequently researchers feel compelled to devote more energy, effort, and resources to meeting these challenges. So when they have these challenges, they might surrender and not go forward into publishing papers. They must just keep fighting with the PhD. And this is something that should be avoided. There are following main reasons why researchers should publish. Following main reasons. So first of all, it is scientific communication. When we publish something, when we do research, we have to communicate that research to the world, to the academia, to the field where we are working. That is number one. Publishing is an important part of research communication. The foremost reason for publishing research is to communicate the findings to other people. Within academia, publishing fulfills the aim of communicating research results to other students or to other researchers or to other potential users, so that the development of theories and research keeps going. Publishing contributes to scientific progress. This is something that we know and we feel in our everyday life, and we have this situation that is going on these days. So how are they going to solve this serious virus circulating these days? This thanks to research, and they have to do research and they have to publish, and then there is scientific that they are going to create vaccines and so on and so forth. So research is really important, and publishing the work is really important. Why publish again? Because it is ideal legal protection of intellectual property. Okay, you are protecting whatever somebody does something in research, protection for whatever he or she produces. Gaining reputation. This is another something that we have to bear in mind why we publish. We publish because every researcher will have to create an image for himself and to have a reputation, positive hopefully, which will be a plus for him or her. Publications are academic currency. It is a kind of currency, you know, it's a currency. So how much your currency is powerful depends on scientific production. Let me go forward with this snapshot here, just to let you have a general view, okay? Have a general view about the research process, okay? Because before publishing, before writing anything, before publishing a research paper, there should be research, okay? There should be research, first of all. There should be a research process. And this is something that the students and PhD students particularly, and of course other professors are doing, okay? They are doing research, there is research. Just to summarize what's happening. So there are three phases. First of all is choosing and defining, phase one. You choose the topic, you choose whatever you want to investigate and defining. So you have the literature review, brainstorming, then you come up with a topic, then you come with a research problem, then the objectives, the hypotheses, and the methods, okay? This is first phase. And I suppose most of the students have already gone through this. Now, the next phase is assessing and analyzing data. So you go into the field work, collect the data, analyze and interpret the data, test hypotheses, draw conclusions, okay? And then after this, there is the next step, which we are talking about now, okay? Which is the writing of the paper or writing of the dissertation, and then the publication of the paper, okay? So this is communicating, present research and write a paper. This is the research process that should be going on before thinking about doing any writing of a paper or any publication of a paper. Then after doing the research, after collecting the data, after getting the results, and then you understand what's going on and you have found answers for the research questions, there is the writing process, okay? There is the writing process. And here, for the writing process, there are guidelines. And this is the purpose for today's lecture, by the way. Okay, there are guidelines for two components. There is the guidelines for the scientific writing, how it should be done. And there are guidelines for the structure of a scientific paper, the structure, the organization of a scientific paper. Okay, so these are the two components. Okay, and I'm going to talk about the two of them, the writing and the structure. Okay, so and then after doing this writing, after organizing the paper, you come up with a draft, and then it should be sent for proofreading. And after proofreading, it is revision and then paper. Okay, and then you can submit, because before you submit anything, it is very helpful that students think about this idea of peer reviewing, okay, with their friends, with any professor, they are good relationship with them. It is very helpful if they give their papers for proofreading before submitting. It is very helpful, okay? Group work is much better than doing work alone. This is something very crucial. So important factors of writing quality, the quality of writing. So here I'm focusing on just on the writing. So we have, there is first of all, coherence, okay? Include all necessary information in each section. So in each section of your paper, introduction, literature review, methodology, etc., you have to include the necessary information. Don't go and speak about unnecessary things, because this is the tendency among the students, okay, especially the new researchers, okay? They go and talk about necessary and other unnecessary. They think that the quality is in the quantity. That's not true. Quality is in the quality, and this is how it should be done. Include only necessary information in each section. Do not repeat information, okay? It should not be repeated. Many students, they tend to repeat themselves when they are writing. Organization, follow EMRAD structure. I'm going to show you what we mean, what is meant by EMRAD structure, okay, in the following slides. EMRAD, it means, very briefly for the moment, it is the introduction, methodology, results, discussion, conclusion, and then references, etc. So this is the EMRAD structure that is followed and should be respected regarding the structure of the paper, okay? Put the right part in the right place. So when you are organizing your paper, you have to put the right part in the right place. You don't have to talk about the results in introduction. You don't have to talk about the results in methodology, and you don't have to talk about methodology in results. So you have to put each thing in its own place, because many students, especially the new researcher, when they are writing, there is this difficulty of not knowing how to appropriately put the information they have at hand. Relevance, conform to the length and guidelines and keep paper focused. So it should be, because we are dealing here with a paper. It's different from a PhD. PhD is quite long. Not even in PhD, you have to be careful not to be too general and keep talking about everything. You have to be focused, okay? Learn to be focused. So for example, for a paper, choose a limited amount of data to present in each section. 3 to 5 results for 100, 400 word essay, most important results. So for example, for a paper that is usually 15 pages maximum, I'm talking about here good journals that publish good papers. Usually the tendency is to have maximum like 15. Some other journals, you can have more than that, but usually the tendency, the average is 15 pages. So in 15 pages, you don't have enough space to talk about every result. So you have to talk about the most important result, the most important. And it's up to the students, up to the researcher, up to the one who is writing the paper to determine which are the most important ones to include in the paper. Clarity should be easy to read and understand. Should be easy to read and understand. So the paper or the writing in a paper should be easy to read and understand. We're not talking about metaphors. We're not talking about literary writing, okay? This is science. Usually the language is straightforward, easy to read and understand. Use proper, simple grammar, phrasing and style, okay? Check formatting and style rules of your target journal of conference. Now, usually every journal, every conference, they have their own guidelines that you have to check, okay? And these guidelines, this is exactly what I'm telling you now today in this presentation, but it would be good to check them as well, because sometimes there could be some variation, very minor variations. Now, this is the EMRAD style that I talked about. So you see here, this is the structure of a research paper. This is the resume, if you want, of the whole presentation today. It's the resume of the whole presentation today. So the EMRAD style or structure. So you see here we have, this is EMRAD structure. So it means introduction, methods, results, discussion, conclusion. And then you have, before the introduction, you have what is referred to in the literature as index. That's why whenever you are talking about papers and publications and journals, etc., we are talking about indexation. It's very important in these days, especially when we are talking about electronic publishing, okay? Usually now they'll have to be careful about indexing. They tell you that this one is Scopus indexed and so on and so forth. And in order to index a paper, they index the manuscript title, the abstract, and the keywords. These are the indexes, okay? And then at the end, you have the references. So of course you have acknowledgement in case at the end you have benefited from a financial support of a project, for example, you need to make a reference to that. Don't make a reference to that into the paper itself, but there is a section, small short paragraph that is not acknowledgement. You can refer to it at the end, before references, and then after references you have the appendix. Okay, so this is generally the picture. I'm not going to go into details of each manuscript here and what does this mean now, because this is what I'm going to talk about in the following slides. But before I go into the following slides, because this is something missing here, okay? There is something missing in here, which is very important for people in applied linguistics, because this is the field where we're working, which is the following, which is the literature review. It's not mentioned in this IMRAD structure, but we have to be careful to include it, and we have to include it after the introduction, okay? And today I'm going to talk about elements of literature review. So let's move on into the details of each of these. So introduction, what does it do? What do we do in the introduction? So what we do is the following: concisely, accurately discuss or present the study background. You have to refer very concisely, very accurately to the background that you are referring to. You're based, okay? Describe concisely and accurately where your research fits into the current science. You have to make a very small reference to some of the literature, okay, but not in detail, because it's just introduction. Identify the problem to be solved. What is the problem you are dealing with? Okay, what is your research question? What is the issue you want to discuss? This is justify. Then pose the questions to solve that problem issue, and then finally establish the significance of the study. Why is your paper important? Why do you think it's going? You want to publish it? What is the importance of doing that for the literature, for the academia, for the people in the field? Okay, so these are the elements you need to bear in mind. I will go into details later on, because now what I want to do is simply go with each part or section of the paper very briefly. I do hear somebody talking through audio.
Can you please unmute yourselves? Please.
Okay, I think now it's fine. So let's continue. So this is the introduction. Next, we have the literature review. What do we do in the literature review? As I told you, I'm just going in a bit of detail, not in detail here, it's very shortly, but I will come to the details later, okay? Literature review, what do? We have to provide what we have studied, this problem, issue, okay? Who has studied this problem, issue before you?
Now, please, can you unmute yourselves?
Okay.
Professor Tamir, would you please unmute yourself now? Because I
Yes.
muted everyone.
Yes, that's good. That's good. Very nice. Because sometimes it happens. That's why how we have to do it. So I was talking about literature review. So we have to talk about the following. Okay, who studied the issue that you are dealing with? What they have found. Summarize the results. What is still not known. So when you are talking about the results of other people related to the issue you are talking about, what was missing in their research? What is missing in the field? Okay, what is still not known? So here comes your role. What are the existing schools of thought? Because you need to theoretical background. Okay, what are you going to use as a theoretical background? The schools of thought you are referring to, where your study stands among these different schools, and then where are you going to situate yourself, in which school that you are going to adopt, and why? Okay. So this is the literature review. I will come to the details, as I told you. The methods. What do we do in the methods? Tell how you did the study. That is to say, you tell what are the participants that participated in your study, the sample, the materials you have used, the methods of experimentation, the analysis that was used. So this is what you have to talk about in this section, methods. Results, explain, or simply present rather than discuss and interpret. This is something very important. Usually what happens for students when they want to, or people in general, when they want to present the results, they start interpreting, they start discussing. No, in the results section, we simply describe the results and present the results, okay? You have the diagram table and then put it into words. That's it. Okay, the discussion, the interpretation, the explanation comes in the following section, which is called discussion and conclusion. So in the discussion and conclusion, then you can summarize again and then go back into interpreting your results, comparing your results with other people, and so on and so forth. Okay, so explain, interpret what your findings mean and implications for your research. Okay, include limitations. If there are any problems, limitations, you say that I was limited because of this, okay, to include them. Don't be shy. Don't be shy about mentioning limitations to your study. And discuss future research that is needed, okay, presented for the other people who might read your paper and tell them, this is how you can develop my paper, okay? This is how you can develop the issue that I have studied. Now, let's go into the details. I think because of this issue that we just had, okay, of audio and so on, to avoid problem, I'm going to skip this section, which is called quizzes, because I want to involve the participants, but let's skip it, okay? Anyway. Now, this is the recap of the structure of a paper, By the way, what I'm talking about now is applicable to the dissertation altogether. This is exactly what you have, okay? But of course, in the dissertation, it's more general, details, and so on. But for the paper, it should be very limited, accurate, concise, and so on. Now, one point of repeating this here, this chart here, is to focus on one point, because usually people, when they want to write the paper, they start with introduction, abstract, and then literature review, and then methods, results, and discussion. No, that's not the way to do it. If you look at the numbers I'm putting there, you can start with the review of literature, leave introduction, leave abstract, because these you can do them at the end, and I will tell you why. So start with literature review, very helpful, then go and describe the methods, then go results, discussion, and conclusion. And then when you are done, you have a general, accurate view of your paper. Then in the introduction, you can be very accurate, because introduction, you need to be very concise and accurate, so you can choose the most important elements, include them in the introduction and the abstract. That's why it's better to leave that at the end until everything is full-fledged for you, is clear for you. Then you can go and put it concisely, accurately, in a very short way in the introduction and abstract, right? So, and this is the order I'm going to follow into talking about the details of these sections, okay? These are the order. I will start with literature review, methods, result, discussion, and then we'll finish with introduction, abstract, and move very quickly to title and keywords. Let's move on, forget about that, okay? Because I have to, a lot of things, I have to be picky. Okay, so choosing the research paper sections, okay, composing research paper sections. So before writing, so when you want to start writing, you have done the research, you have collected your data, you have the results and everything. So you want to start the writing process. You want to start the process. Before writing your paper, write down your research questions and hypotheses. These are, so you have to start things in blocks, not everything at the same time. Okay, you start things in blocks. So before writing your paper, write down your research questions and hypotheses. What did this study seek to find? For example, this study sought to find how many students are satisfied with their university's facilities. This is the, okay, the research question. Then what are the study's main arguments and questions? Okay, you have the research question. Now, what is the main argument? What is the question? How many students report satisfaction with materials? Another example you can put in this clearly. What are the most common complaints students make about their universities? Okay, this is how you can put that. Decide, next thing, decide which journal audience you are writing for. Researchers in your field, general public, which one? So you have to determine, you have to go into the journal or the place where you want to publish, have an idea about what they are producing. Does your research fit into that or no? So you have to be very, you choose about that, okay? Read me. Read the mini articles from your target sources. So you want to publish somewhere, go and have an idea about their papers, the published papers there, okay, to have an idea. It's very enlightening. It will help you as a model, okay, to follow. Read the guidelines of the journal, okay? The guidelines, they're very important, and this is as I told you, this is what I am talking about, okay? The guidelines that you can find in journals, this is what you have in this presentation. Now, next step, prepare the tables and figures, okay? Maybe some students, especially students in PhD, I don't in literary field, or maybe they don't have lots of figures and so on. But I'm making a reference to research in applied linguistics. This is the one I'm used to. So prepare the tables and figures. So you have summarized your data, you have organized it, put it. You have to organize. That's the first block you start with. Okay. After the research questions and so on. So the block, and then create and gather all your data in tables. This is the first table, this is the second, third, graphic, etc., etc. Give them numbers and captions. For each graphic or table, you give a number and you give a caption. What is the caption? It is the title of that table. It is the title of that graphic. Okay, for example, here you have examples. So you have here the table, this is just an example, okay? And here you have the number, okay? And then the caption. So organize these things first, okay? Because usually what happens, the students, the researchers, they just put themselves into everything without knowing how to start. But this, what I'm telling you, is the process you can follow to make it easy for you and to have a good result. Place them in order. Next step, place them in order you want to show them. So after you put this, the graphics, the situation will be very clear for you, okay? You can start and analyze and write and put the information you have in the tables, you put that into words. What does it do? The literature review. So I'm starting now into the details, okay? So the literature review uses primary literature and summarizes references, citations, the current understanding of the problem. So, okay, you have selected the papers, the books, whatever, that deal with your topic. So you summarize that, okay? You summarize that, okay? Use primary ones, okay? Because here you have to be very selective. You are not going to talk about everything. You have to be very selective in terms of the most important studies, the most known pioneering research, etc. Definition of literature review, let's skip this. Write the literature review. Read, so what you read, the existing relevant literature, okay? Summarize, synthesize the existing knowledge. Next, review critically, okay? When you want to write that, don't just copy and put information just like that. This one, summarize him, this paper. And then you move to another paper, you summarize it independently, separately in your work. And then another paper, you do things separately. No, what should be done is to be done in a you synthesize things, okay? You compare, you discuss everything together, okay? Not just in separate sections. Review critically, you have to be critical. Of course, when you are synthesizing, when you are summarizing, when you are discussing, you have to be critical. And I'm going to show you how you can be critical in a good way, okay? Because critical, critical can be done in several ways. Find the research gap. There's always a research gap. Something is missing and you want to complete it. Discuss different traditions, okay? Discuss them. Critique, they are already mentioned, so I'm repeating myself here. Draw a conclusion and justify your stand. Answer the so-called so what question. Now, after you synthesize, after you summarize, after you discuss all the relevant literature that have studied the same topic you are dealing with, now what is missing and what after that? So what's going to happen? Okay, this is where your paper stands out. Okay, that's where your paper is going to stand out. Okay, your research is going to stand out. What to read and what to do not to read. So when you are reading the relevant literature, read scholarly journal articles, okay? Read pioneer articles, latest articles, milestone articles as much as you can, okay? Because the situation in Morocco is not the same as abroad. I was a student here and I was a student abroad. When I went abroad, things have changed, okay, completely. Now, but you try to do your best because nowadays there is a change. I think there is a change. The ministry and the universities are doing their best to make things available for the students, okay? So try as much as you can, get these kinds of papers. Try to be not outdated, but try to be up to date and use nice, interesting literature. Also books, the same thing. So you have to do the same procedure. Find top-tier journals of your own discipline. So your journals that deal with your discipline, try to get them and try to read what they have written. They're very helpful. Try to avoid blogs. Usually some students or some people, they can refer to blogs. Okay, that's not, they are not scholarly. Okay, they are not scholarly. Try to avoid citing from unpublished theses unless it is something very important, relevant, and a good one. Try to avoid citing from unpopular conference proceedings. Avoid not dated references. You have to be up to date. So summary, read, summarizing, okay, existing knowledge about the particular phenomena, clear and concise presentation of the gathered information, integrate what others have done, okay, and then synthesize or synthesis, integrate a number of different pieces into a whole. As I told you, some people, they can take one researcher and summarize what that person said or published, and then they move to another one, do things separately. No, integrate a number of different pieces into a whole, making sense of existing literature and finding research gap, build bridges between related topics, making recommendations and connecting practice to the research, avoid outdated references. So the idea of critical, I told you, when you want to be critical, and you should be critical, everybody needs to be critical. We know that the issue of critical thinking in education, everybody is talking about this issue. So how can we be critical, okay? Now, to be critical does not mean to criticize in an exclusively negative manner. To be critical of a text means you question the information and opinions in the text. You question, okay? You are not easy to be convinced. That's the old story, okay? I want the reader, I want the one who is writing that paper to convince me. So an attempt to evaluate or judge its worth overall. Critical thinking is an effort to develop reliable, rational evaluations about what is reasonable for us to believe and disbelieve. What are the strengths of the text you are reading? What are the weaknesses of this text that you are reading? Adding any value to knowledge? Is the text that you are reading adding any value to the knowledge? Is it reliable? Who said something? No. So sometimes there are people, like in blogs, they just tend to put information without putting references. And that's something to be careful about. Now, another aspect that we have to be careful about when we're writing the literature review is adherence to academic writing or style. And what do we mean by academic writing or style? It is a writing style that fulfills the purpose of education in a college or university. To be considered as academic writing, you need to follow several instructions. However, these instructions, do's and don'ts, may be very much based on your institution. Adopt justifying approach, for example, rather than a declarative approach. When you put something into writing, don't just declare, okay, this is good, etc. No, try to justify, give a justification for what you're doing. Justify based on logic and justify not based on emotion. Whatever is good, this is good, just on your emotion. No, what is a logical argument for that? So you have to just justify. Make a conclusion of your discussion. Explain your stand. Flow and smooth transition. Follow the proper reference style. Use appropriate linkers and phrases. These are snapshot. This is a snapshot of the criteria for academic writing. Another thing that we have to avoid plagiarism, which is commonly defined as failing to properly quote, cite, or acknowledge someone else's words or ideas with an internal citation, citing other researchers' work without giving them credit, quoting word for word forward without quotation mark. So when you take something, make it clear that you have taken this from this, okay, book or this journal or this whatever. Merely changing the wording is not enough, by the way, when you want to avoid plagiarism. So what happens is that of changing the words and then you leave it as it is yours. No, that's not enough, because what you need to do is to make a reference. Even if you change the wording of something, you need to make a reference to that original research. Another way of avoiding plagiarism is using some softwares, technology, that can be helpful, like Turnitin. Most prestigious universities now, they use Turnitin to help about this. Use of quotation mark. So when you take something exactly as it is, use quotation marks and then state the reference and the page, okay? Next, what you can do is paraphrase. Another way is paraphrase. You have an idea somewhere, so you paraphrase it, but still, when you paraphrase, acknowledge the original, or make a reference to the original research. Other things related to academic writing, some common mistakes that students make in literature review is lack of proper components, lack of relevant content, lack of flow in writing. Now, what do we mean by flow in writing? That you say when somebody is writing, you tend to feel that the person is not organized, okay? You don't feel a transition that is smooth, okay? Some kind of disorder going on. So the flow of information in writing, okay, there should be coherent, should be transition, it should be smooth, etc. Lack of theoretical discussion. When you are talking about something, there should be a discussion. You should not just take it and put it and then you move on. No, there should be discussion, synthesis, summary, as I told you. Lack of proper justification in the following study hypothesis. So when you are talking in the relevant literature, so what you need to do is justify while you are reviewing, you are finding the gap, you are making the research gap existing in the relevant literature very clear, and then at the same time you put forward and you justify, you develop your hypotheses and your research questions. Another common error is lack of critical review. That's why I told you that one has to be critical. Lack of integrity, etc. Now we move to the methodology section. Describe. So what we have to do here is describe the participants, materials, design, procedures, and why and how they were made, okay? Describe how the experiments were done. How did you proceed about putting the experiment, administering the experiments? Explain why your experimental procedures, why you have chosen them, okay? You have to explain that. Explain methods of analysis. Explain how results were analyzed. Now, some tips for organizing your information in the methods section. So, description of preparations, measurements, and protocols should be organized chronologically. Okay, so when you are talking about samples, the research methodology you have adopted, the experiment and measurement and so on, go use our chronological order, okay? Because that's the most authentic way of doing it. That's the most realistic way. That's what happened on Earth when you were doing the field work. List the methods in same order as they appear in the results section. Okay, and then organize them. So another way of organizing things could be from most important to least important. Okay, some examples. I want to be practical here because I could have been more practical, but because so many information, maybe for the next time I will be do this and do practical things with you, okay? But for the moment, let me just give examples for the method section. For example, when you want to talk about your, so first of all, these are the things just like that. For example, this is sample materials. You have 12 teachers, 72 pupils, their parents, caretakers, video observation, picture book apps. And by the way, I have taken these from a paper. I will show you the papers at the place where I have taken the paper when I finish, okay? But just let me give you an idea about what you can do in the methods. So this is how you can proceed. These are the methods, okay? This is the sample, this is the participants, and so on. Now, what you need to do is preparation of sample materials prior. So this is how you are going to proceed when you write. Okay, prior to the video observation study, questionnaires were administered to parents, primary caregivers, and kindergarten teachers. So this, you see, what you are simply doing here is simply putting those elements here which are separate into words. Then what is the method of analysis you have done? SPSS version, mean values, standard deviation, correlation. These are separate, put in a separate way. Now let's see how you can put them practically. You write them. So this is how you are going to write. I have taken this from the paper that I will show you later. So we have, this is how it goes. 12 teachers, 72 children, etc., and their parents participated in this study. The intervention is carried out in 6 kindergartens in which 12 teachers each read 2 books with a group of children. Both books are read in both reading media, print picture book and print book app read on an iPad. Prior to the video observation study, questionnaires were administered to parents, primary caregivers, and kindergarten teachers. Now, this is taken from one paragraph, but I have separated it like this, just to make things clear for you, how I put the information of my methodology in a paragraph. So notice, please, regarding the language, there is always this issue of discussion. What should we use, active voice or passive voice, okay? Now, the idea, to summarize the whole story for you, try to be consistent, okay? Usually, active voice is used, generally, in the paper, in the whatever, in the dissertation. But when we talk about methods, methodology parts, usually in the literature, in the journals, in the papers, what happens is that there is more the use of passive voice and the use of the past tense, okay? The use of the past tense. That's why I put them in red for you and highlighted them for you, okay? Other continuation of the paper, of the paragraph that I have told you, I have taken from a paper. 12 teachers carried out 4 reading sessions each, making the total number of video recorded sessions 48. Data analysis was conducted in SPSS version 25 IBM at the descriptive level. The patterns of responses to various media were provided by mean values and standard deviations, frequency and duration. Differences in the dependent variables, nonverbal engagement, dialogues, type of utterances between the 2 media was explored by variance analysis. So you can see clearly how the author in this part is putting for us the methodology that he or she used. Okay, notice again the use of passive voice, and notice also the past tense, the use of the past tense, carried out, was conducted, were provided, was explored. Then, so write this information as sentences. So when you put in things into sentences, so then put things into paragraphs, different paragraphs. You come up with the paragraphs, okay, for your method section. Now we move on to the results section. I hope everything is going well for everybody. Things are going well.
Very well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good, good. It allows me also to have a little break before continuing, talking for a long time. Yeah. So results. So we have here, what should we do in the results? So present the findings, okay? in the same order as in the methods section. So you remember when we talked about methods, we have talked about samples, the participants, methodology, and then the method of analysis, and so on. So you follow the method section, okay, the order, okay. Try to be coherent. Try to be coherent, okay. Present data in figures and tables. So what you need first, when you in your results section, you present the figure and then tables, whatever you have, or graphic, and then describe it. Okay, report. You report on data collection and participants. Report data relevant to the research questions. Okay, so you describe it. This is what I got. X number, whatever, standard deviation, whatever, mean, whatever, percentage, whatever. So this is what you get. You put that into words. And I told you, don't try to be explanatory. Don't interpret here. So far, you just describe what you have as data. Tips for result section. Now here some tips. When referencing figures, use the present tense. When referencing figures, use the present tense. When discussing events of the experiment study, use past. And that's what I told you before in the method section. I told you that in the methods, we usually use the past tense. But when we are describing the results, we use the present tense. Then passive or active voice are acceptable, but you need to be consistent, okay? Don't mix, sometimes this, sometimes that. Cite the figures or tables every time you reference it, okay? In your explanation, when you are putting things into words, you cite, you make a reference, okay? Just like other sources, okay? You say, for example, according to figure number, whatever. Do not discuss the meaning. Do not discuss the meaning. As I told you, don't interpret, okay? Just present, or implications. No, just present and describe the basic findings. You may include extra results on a second page and additional results if needed. Use the results section to answer research questions. Okay, in your results, you are going to provide answers for research questions, okay? But don't interpret, you just present, okay? For the research question this, I got this. Research question 2, I got this. Just describe what you got as a result. Present this based on the different, or on the data from figures. And finally, elaborate, if necessary, with secondary results, if needed. Try to be focused, try to be concise, try to be accurate. Okay, it's already mentioned. Discussion and conclusion. Discussion and conclusion. What should we do in the discussion? As I told you, in the results, we have to avoid interpretation. Why? Because this is where you have to put the interpretation. This is where you have to put it, okay? You have to provide the interpretation, discussion, explanation for your results in the discussion conclusion sections. Interpret and sell your data as important. So try to be like it's like you want to sell, okay? Like you want to sell your data, okay? Try to be as convincing as possible. Criticize and or justify the study's methods. Okay, so you have to criticize, justify, compare, and suggest improvements. Answer this question. Did your study contribute to knowledge in the field or not? This is where you have to answer this question. Okay, did it contribute to the knowledge in the field or no? Discuss the impact of this research on related research. What is the impact of your research on the research that you have reviewed in your literature review? How do these results relate to the original study questions or objectives? Do the data support your hypothesis? This is where you say yes or no. Are your results consistent with similar studies? Is there any similarity, consistency between your findings and findings elsewhere in the same field? What further research would be necessary to answer the questions raised by your result? There's always something missing. Even if you are trying to provide, okay, to fill in a gap existing in the delivered literature, you will find when you are doing your research, you will find that there is something still missing, but you can't do it because you can't do everything, and you leave the door open for other people to do it, and you present it to them, okay? What is needed for further research. Now, for organization of discussion and conclusion, focus first on what is most important. So this is your focus. You focus on the most important things first. Then you move to what is less important to your research, okay, problem. Summarize the process, the results, and the overall purpose of this study. Start with analysis of results and move to implications and extensions of research, to discussions and interpretations. Divide the analysis of results by paragraph. Do not combine unrelated data sets. If there are some data, there's some data that is not related 100%, try to separate them, okay? Even the same thing for your discussion. Discuss things separately when they are not very well related. Use present and past tense, passive or active, depending on context. Okay, use present and past, passive voice or active voice, depending on context. Do not be too broad, very important, about the impacts of this research. Set some limitations, okay? Try to be realistic. You try to be ambitious, but in a realistic way. There is a limit for every human being, okay? Whatever we do is limited, okay, somehow. So you need to be realistic and say that. Set the limitation. This is it remains limited because of this, because of that, and you put it for there. And don't be shy about saying that, okay? Usually what happens for novice researchers, and that was the case for me, for example, I wanted to be everything good and so on, and then I tend to neglect or ignore the idea of providing the limitation. But I learned that I have to do it, okay? And this is something you have to do as well. Don't include new terms or ideas in this. When you are discussing, when you are concluding, don't mention something for the first time, new terms. No, that's not where you have to put that, okay? Everything regarding your terminology, your background, and so on should be put introduction, relevant, and the review of literature. Use specific expressions. Many times what happens for researchers, they tend to be general. For example, they say a higher achievement. No, that is general. You have to be specific. This is science, how science should be. Write, instead of higher achievement, you have to write the exact percentage. For example, 77%, or the mean, or the standard deviation, whatever it is. Instead of at a lower rate, which is a term, which is an expression that is general, at a lower rate, what do you mean? How much lower rate? Be exact. You have to be exact. Write, for example, 0.7% less. Instead of highly significant, this is something to be avoided. Highly, significant. What? No, everything is calculated in science, okay, especially in applied linguistics and the hard sciences. Now, write, instead of you write the, for example, here you have p, etc. You specify the p value for that. Okay, so this is how you have to be accurate and exact, and avoid general terms or expressions. Okay. Now, as I told you, after finishing the literature review, after finishing the methodology, the results, the discussion and conclusion, everything is clear for you. Everything is set for you. And you have a better mastery of what you have been doing, better view of what you have been doing. Now you can go and put your introduction, because in your introduction, you need to be very short, accurate, and precise, okay? And you can't put everything. So when you have gone through literature, the methodology, the results, you have a better mastery. And when you have a better mastery of something, you can be very picky, very selective, and put something in a concise way. Now, in the introduction, what you need to do is establish the context of the research. Establish the context of the research. Include gaps. I told you that you have to find a gap in the knowledge and that you want to fill. State the purpose of the work, hypothesis, research, question, or problem. Okay. And then give the aim or rationale for your approach. Why it is important, your approach. Why did you choose this kind of approach? this kind of experiment design? Why are the advantages of this particular model system? Why is this technique better than those? Okay, include main content. Okay, the main, without presenting the data. No mention whatsoever of the data. Okay. What does this study do and why is it important? So the introduction. Okay, I have already mentioned that. I told you that you have to find a gap. Okay, two main questions to answer. What is the gap in the knowledge that accurately or currently exists, and why does it need filling? Importance of the study. How does the study fill that gap? Role of the study. Now for the organization, so background information, then move on to the motivation, key primary literature works, hypothesis, research, questions and problem, and then very briefly the approach, okay, you are using. Okay. Just a practical example of how you can write your introduction. Use signal phrases, clear form phrases to introduce data. For example, the purpose of this study was, or the objective of this study is, we investigate two possible methods to explain. And also you need a package of verbs that you can always refer to use. Okay, this is I've included here a few examples. This paper or this study describes, investigates, lays out, presents, analyzes, attempts to determine, assess, measures. So you need to have a variety of verbs, okay, because you need to be using different verbs. Don't use the same verb all the time, okay? And something happens to everybody. So when you have a list of such kinds of phrases or words or verbs, particularly, it will make life easy for you so that you know how to present your write your work. Okay, the statement of the purpose or hypothesis is usually placed also when you want to present your statement of purpose or hypothesis. It is usually near the end of the introduction. That's often as the topic sentence of the final paragraph. You have the final paragraph of your introduction, topic sentence of that paragraph. That could be a good place from the papers that I have seen, a good place for writing your statement of purpose or research questions. Now, after finishing the introduction, you move to the abstract. Okay. Now, let me go quickly to the checklist or the criteria. So what you have to put into the abstract. So motivation. Why do we care about the problem and the results? What problem is the paper trying to solve, and what is the scope of the work? Solution. What was done to solve the problem? Results. What is the answer to the problem, and implications? What implication does the answer imply? This is for the abstract. Also, there are some things that should not be included in an abstract. Okay, for example, information and conclusions not stated in the paper, references to other literature that's not to be avoided in the abstract, and the exact title phrase. Your title, you put the same thing in the abstract, or illustrative elements such as tables and figures. So these are things to be avoided. It is also not beneficial to use the exact phrases that appear later in the introduction. Usually, people and researchers, and that was the case for me when doing research, and still the case, there is some kind of similarity between the content of introduction and abstract. There is differences I have seen, but it is advisable to avoid repeating, of course, the phrases and the expressions you have used in the introduction and put them in the abstract. Let's say you do a paraphrase of your introduction. Okay, it's also not beneficial to use the exact phrases. You have to avoid that. Okay, it should be different wording. Now, the title is the part of paper that is read the most. As you remember, in the structure I have showed you in one graphic, it is called index. You remember there are three components. There is the title, there is the keywords, and there is the abstract. Okay, the title, keywords, abstract. And if you go to journals, that's what you see, okay, for free most of the time. Sometimes you can find the whole paper for free as well, but some other times you don't have the paper free as well. Okay, so the free information that is all the time available for anybody in the journal websites and so on is the title, the keywords, and the abstract. Okay, so why? Because that's the information that is indexed, used for indexation. So the title is part of paper that is read the most. It is usually read first and most often. It is the only thing that is read. Electronic indexing services rely heavily on the accuracy of the title. So it's very important information. It's very sensitive information. You have to be very careful because that's the thing that will attract the audience for you. That's the thing that will attract an audience for you. It is the title, keywords, and the abstracts. So users will find if they are attracted by the title, by the keywords, and then by the abstract, they will read your paper. Okay. So Day 1983 defines a good title as the fewest possible words that adequately describe the contents of the paper. The fewest possible words that adequately describe the content of the paper, and that's what you should do. When the title is too long, it usually contains too many waste words, such as investigation, on, at the beginning. On the other hand, titles that are too short often use words which are too general. For instance, the title "Writing Reports" does not provide any information on which kind of reports the paper is focused on or focusing on. So you have to be in between, being too specific and being too general. Thus, according to Peter 2002, effective titles identify the main issue of the paper. Identify the main issue. You have to be make it very clear. The issue, the main issue you are talking about, your research, make it clear in the title. Begin with the subjects of the paper. Okay, begin with the subjects of the paper. Are accurate, ambiguous, specific and complete. Okay, but you have to find a way out. Are accurate, unambiguous, specific and complete. Do not contain abbreviations. Abbreviations should be avoided. Only one possible scenario for including an abbreviation is when it is common sense knowledge. Everybody knows it. So when you, for example, you include the word HTML or CPU, this is in computer science, or even the ordinary person know what is an HTML, okay, or what is it. So it's possible. But apart from that, to be avoided. And then find a way to attract, okay, the audience or the readers. I give you examples here of different titles. Okay, different titles. So just to give you an idea about how you can do that. Okay, for example, here you have the title in blue: Educational Technology and Culture, the Influence of Ethnic and Professional Culture on Learners. Now, sorry, technology acceptance, also part of the title. So what's about this title? So it is a compound, mostly descriptive title, which is relatively long, as you can see. Despite its length, it does not reveal the findings of the study. There is no idea about the findings, okay? The main issue, what you want to investigate, what you want to come up from what you want to investigate as a research question. Now let's move to the other example. It's kind of technical, but sounds a good title. HG06, tagging paper, taxonomy, Flickr, academic article to read. An interesting, so it's all an interesting variant of descriptive title that is self-reflective. The paper is about tagging, published at the Hypertext conference in 2006. And it uses a list of tags as its title, including a reference to the conference, HG06, as you can see there. Due to its unusual style, it's a kind of unusual style, it can be more attractive, making people curious to know more about the paper. It will probably stand out in a table of contents. And as you can see, it is not long, not like the first one. Another example, a new framework for dynamic adaptations and actions. Okay, a descriptive title that reveals only title about the content of the paper. Moreover, it is fairly unspecific, but not clarifying what kinds of adaptations and actions are dealt with. Unless this is clear in the target community, the title should include some declarative pieces. What characteristics does the framework expose other than that? It is new. Okay. Now, just to finish with, before finishing, I have a few slides about keywords. So the keywords are used to index the paper. Okay, this very important element for indexation and for also attracting the readers, as I told you. Okay, so for each paper, so the number concerning the number of keywords you can add. So 7, approximately 5 to 7 in the literature. That's what is advised. It is not necessary to repeat keywords that are already included in the title. It shouldn't be 100% similarity. Okay, avoid 100% similarity between the title and repeating your words in keywords. Instead, keywords are used to give additional information. Keywords can also include short phrases, but in any case, they should be neither too general nor too specific. Neither too general nor specific. Now, we move to the final part about the submission. Your paper is ready, and then you want to submit. Okay, there are lots of details. I'm not going to go into that, but I will just give you an idea about the paper submission process. So there is the paper that is ready now, and you want to submit. You choose your journal. You have already had an idea about the journal and the submission process and everything, and then you submit. Now, when you submit it, it goes to the editor-in-chief. Okay, this editor-in-chief makes a first preliminary review. Okay. Then after that, it goes from the editor. If it is good paper, then fine, and there is something promising about the paper, it goes to the reviewers. Usually there are 2 reviewers, blind reviewers. Okay, they don't know about you and about the author, nothing. You just have the paper. So reviewer 1 and reviewer 2. Okay, and then if there are any remarks, okay, if they ask you to revise, okay, they ask you to revise, they provide you with the remarks and everything that needs to be improved, and then they send it back to you, and then they ask you for revisions that you have to do on the light of the reviewer's comments, and then after you do that, you resubmit the paper, and then after you submit, okay, it goes into acceptance and then publication. So I'm not going into the very details of everything here, but this is the scenario. Okay, you have the paper, journal, and then the editor. The editor distributes to the reviewers remarks, and then send back to you. You improve according to the remarks, and then you resubmit again, and then they see everything applied as they are recommended, advise you to do, and they can publish your paper. It is published. Okay. Criteria for the reviewers, the criteria that the reviewers rely on in accepting or refusing a paper, just to put it clearly for you. It is what I have been talking about so far, from the beginning until now. Those are the criteria, okay? Those are the criteria. Everything I've mentioned there, they focus on that, and then they can accept or refuse your criteria. So, and I just as a way of summarizing things again, so besides, these are the criteria. Besides making comments, etc., this is the first one. Thematic relevance. So, is it relevant to the scope of the journal and what the journal is doing? That's why I told you before you write your paper, try to have an idea about the journal where you want to submit, so that it corresponds. Significance of contribution. Is your contribution significant? Does it add something, some value to the knowledge and to the research? Originality of the work. Is similar research already published elsewhere, or is something new? Originality is always valued. Coverage of relevant literature. As I told you in my tips when dealing with the literature, how synthesis, summarize, critical discussion, to do things in a global way. Okay, focusing more on the writing style of the paper. The following aspects are relevant for you. So the writing, as I told you, coherence, relevance, grammar, straightforward language, not metaphorical language or literary language, etc. So clarity of writing, readability, organization, conciseness, technical quality of the paper, appropriate title and abstracts, appropriate use of well-designed figures and tables. I told you how you can organize that and how you can call them, give them numbers or order them. Sound conclusion and discussion, length of the paper relative to its usefulness. So you don't, so that to say, as we say in Moroccan Arabic, you give everything to the point, okay? Concise, accurate. You only provide the useful information, okay? Also, increasing the likelihood of are the following characteristics of submitting papers: strong reputation of the author. Okay, this will come for you later. Successful test of the proposed theory. The results are statistically significant and everything is well calculated and makes sense and scientific. Different content from that usually published in the journal, something new, innovation there. And then you have the references, etc. Okay, for my presentation. By this, I finish in my presentation, and I hope that it was useful somehow for all everybody listening.
Of course, it was more than useful. It was
Hopefully,
really
Yeah.
crucial,
Thank you.
and so thank you, Professor Yusuf Tamer, for
I like
this.
it. I appreciate it.
Very informative. Actually, this is the first time we really introduce a session on publication or the publication of a paper in a journal. Of course, you have really referred to focused. You mentioned it from the very beginning that you are focusing on the area of study you are specialized in and you are having experience in. So of course there are other things that relate to the other fields of study, for instance, publication in cultural studies or publication in literature will surely have other requirements and will be surely different. So this is with focus on linguistics and applied linguistics in particular. Okay.
Exactly.
So thank you for this. Well, we will keep saying informative, insightful, eye-opening, and I don't know, I can't find the adjectives to refer to this. Really very to the point, and I can tell you that it appears even from the number of followers that this was a topic that young researchers, not only young researchers actually, all researchers are need guidance in, because now it is becoming crucial for any researchers, as I mentioned in the very introduction, whether we are speaking about young researchers, doctoral students, or even university professors, because now research is considered one of the main criteria for the scientific promotion of university professors, for the recruitment of doctoral students. And so this is why there is this demand for more and more demand for learning how to publish and how to get published in, especially now there is, I can see how young researchers in particular, because the old generation somehow has given up. If they have not started publication since the very beginning, do not really seek that much to publish, but the young generations are really into the, let's say, the culture of publication. And I can see it from the doctoral students I supervise personally, how they are curious and they do their best to look for journals and try to publish in peer-reviewed or index journal. So very informative, very insightful, with really essential information about how to proceed. And you have, of course, as you mentioned it, this is a topic that requires sessions and sessions It's not in, you cannot deal with everything in one session. And actually you have referred to so many aspects that I addressed myself when I presented the literature review section.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I kept at that time referring to how you need to prepare your literature review even when you are preparing an article for publication. So you see, publishing a paper is, of course, a paper is actually a research in miniature. It's a small research. And of course, given the amount of pages or the number of pages you are allowed to, because some journals actually do not even think in terms of pages, but in terms of number of words. They will tell you, I submitted an article, only it's a policy brief, with 2,500 words. What can you say in 2,500 words? You have to be really very precise and concise. And of course, it's no longer in terms of number of pages, but most of the time it's in terms of number of words, 7,000, 8,000 words. So, and we have to, our young researchers have to get really used to this culture and have to really think of looking for the journals. Of course, there are other aspects that you have not really referred to, and that, as I mentioned, you cannot address all the issues in one session. For instance, one of the challenges, and I would like you, before I give the floor to the students, because I know I am in contact with the students. For instance, one of the main challenges students face is how to choose a journal. This is actually Marbat, this is the first issue and challenge students face. So do you have any idea? Can you give any advice in relation to how should students, depending on their field of study or area of study or topic, choose the appropriate journal for publication?
Yeah.
Okay.
There are maybe 3 ways or 4 ways that I can suggest for dealing with that. The first way, for each journal or somewhere you want to publish, they provide a section which they call the scope of the journal. That's to say, what is the theme, what are the axes of research that they focus on. For every journal, there is some section there called the scope of the journal. Okay, this is one thing. Another thing is to have an idea about the board of the journal, okay, and the board of reviewers. When you have the names there, they can, and then they have their specialty next to them. Okay, so you can have an idea about the kind of work they are doing. Okay, so you can see if you fit into that or you don't. So this is the second way. The other way, of course, is going into the content of the journal as well. Okay, the content of the journal. Let's say that read a few publications there, and then you can see a better view of the journal, and you can find out if you fit in there or no. So I think these 3 ways could be some good ways to know where to publish. Of course, before all this, you as a researcher, as a doctoral student, as a novice researcher that you want to publish, you already know what you are doing. You have been reading, you have been the literature, so you know your field, you know where you are situated, where you are located. So already before going into the scope of the journals, or before going into the list of the board of the journal or the reviewers, before going into the publications of the journal, you need to know what you are, where you are first. Okay, where you are situated first. Know about the field where you are doing your work. So when you go there, you know how to, if it fits you or it doesn't fit you. This is what I can tell very briefly. Some ways to there. Another way could be from our friends and colleagues and teachers. Okay, we are researchers, we have students doing the research, so somebody knows something, I know something, and then we can share the knowledge, okay? Sharing the knowledge could be very helpful so that you can know if the journal fits you or no. You have your supervisor, of course, you have your other professors, they can advise you, this is the research that can help you, or the journal or the place where you can go and publish. So it can make the long way short for you. These are the short ways, if you want, for knowing where to publish. Okay, so these are some of the suggestions that I can recommend. The voice. Unmute yourself.
Please unmute yourself, Professor Qiyad.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I said, can you please stop sharing your
Yes.
screen?
Yes.
So we have already addressed another issue that I would like to refer to, and of course, before opening the ground, because these are, I'm sure these are key questions that every student or everybody following us is thinking of. How to avoid predatory journals. This is something we have already discussed, but given the fact that you are addressing publication in journals, do you have any tips for students to recognize a trustworthy journal or a journal of high quality, and how to avoid these predatory journals?
Yeah, well, that's an issue that can happen, but I think that the new ones, okay, to be safe, like the children with their parents, okay, for a child to be safe, the child needs to follow the advice of the father or the mother, the parents. So the supervisor or the researcher can focus on or rely on the help of the supervisor, can rely on the help of the professors, okay, that they know, okay, can rely on some people they know, okay. This is one possibility to be safe, as far as I can tell. And also, they couldn't go further into this, but I don't want to be too challenging for the new researchers, okay? Because there is the other way, which is going into the index journals. And index journals, there are different types of index journals. There is the Scopus index and so on and so forth, etc. And these have some high quality caliber, research, okay? And that's a new teacher researchers can't go into, because the parameters and the criteria for determining these kinds of journals that you have referred to is via indexation. Are they indexed, and where are they indexed? But this, I think, is going to make the challenge too far for the new teachers. The safest way, possible way, could be just relying on the advice of the academic environments that they have at the faculty, conferences, etc. They can also get into touch, not only by supervisor, they can get in touch with other people by technology. Now we have technology. They can ask people by email. Okay, it's a possibility.
Well, you know, Yusuf, unfortunately, we are not in a culture of sharing, unfortunately, and I'm sorry to say this. Okay, we try as much as possible to cultivate this among our students, but unfortunately, this is not a well-spread culture. And even with respect to supervisors, you know that not everybody who supervises is actually a published professor or a university professor. So I think that young people nowadays, young researchers sometimes can surprise you, can astonish you by finding themselves ways to really reach these things. So of course, just in case, because yes, of course, they can resort to their supervisors, they can resort to other university professors, colleagues, peers, international community, as you said. And this is why actually we mentioned and we encourage our students to take part in international conferences.
Yes.
That's really the key to getting connected and to having access, because there is more culture of sharing at the international level actually than it is at the local level.
Yes,
People, even among colleagues, this is not a widespread culture.
Yes,
okay, so let's call the cat a cat. I'm not really, you know, I'm straightforward and I like to tell the truth about how the situation is. So let's now open the floor to our to the people, because we do not only have our students inside the Zoom room, we have even people from other universities and from other countries. So anyone who would like to ask a question? Sijilali Al-Adnani, where are you? You are walking, traveling? Yeah? Yeah? Yeah, okay. Abdul Malik. Staifi, yeah. Hisham.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank our Professor Qirat for inviting Professor Tamer to present today. Actually, the presentation was very informative and comprehensive. We learned a lot.
I stop you, Hisham, thanking Professor Qirat and Professor Zdari. We are a team, yeah. And we cannot work on my own. I wouldn't have been able to do this. So please,
so
okay.
Yeah, so thank you so much. And thank you for organizing this series of webinars. You and Professor Zdari, we know the effort that he makes and all the help that he provides us, you and him. Okay, so I don't have a question, but I have a request, or I'm seeking advice. So as a junior researcher or a doctoral student, I'm novice researcher who wants to present, who wants to publish for the first time, and I have read about some types of research articles, such as there is the original research, short reports, review articles, case studies. Professor Tamer, what advice would you give to a novice researcher who wants to publish for the first time? What type of research article I should start with? A research article that helps me publish and at the same time progress in my dissertation. So the second request or advice is related to plagiarism. How could we avoid an intentional plagiarism so that we will not be put in the situation of rejection, so that our articles won't be rejected? This is on the one hand, and on the other hand, we won't have problems at university when submitting our dissertation. So you talked about Turnitin. I think that it's impossible for individuals. It's very expensive. Is there any alternative, a free software, or at least a cheaper software that new researchers like us can use? Thank you so much.
Yeah, see, Yusuf, I think that, okay, please.
Okay, thank you for your nice words. I'm happy that you found it useful, the presentation. When you have mentioned in your question, you have made a reference to different types of papers. For example, the two you have mentioned there, the research paper that you say it is there is field work, and you have mentioned the other one, which is a review, okay, a review paper, in which you do a review of the literature, you summarize, you synthesize it, etc. Now, my advice to you would be, of course, to follow the steps that I have mentioned today, okay, all of them. And I don't stop there. I recommend that you read about that more further, because there are books about this, okay? There are books, and there could be workshops about doing this, okay? This is number two, okay? Number one, that's, you follow that and go beyond. Okay, number two is that you read as much as you can. You establish a background of knowledge that you have, okay? So that you are capable of doing good research. The more you read, the good for you, okay? You read about journals, books, whatever. And also you acquaint yourself with the field. When I say acquaint yourself with the field, you acquaint yourself with all the criteria for doing a good publication. You can get an intuition about the writing, how it is done. You can get an intuition about the content, about the type of research, the methodology, originality, etc., and so on and so forth. All what I've mentioned in our presentation today. Then the next thing, after you have this background knowledge, you read and you read and you read, you go beyond that, okay? You step by step, okay? Then in your PhD, you are doing research. I don't know what you are doing as research exactly, but is it applied or literature or whatever?
Thinking.
But you have
Critical thinking.
critical
works
thinking.
on
Yeah, didactic pedagogy. And so now you can, when you have a good background, you are doing your research, you can take something from your PhD out. That's what usually people do. Okay, don't take everything. You are going to take something very specific about critical thinking, and then you present it in the form of a paper, okay, somewhere, applying all the expertise, applying all the knowledge, applying all the information and the tips and the tricks that are you have read about, okay. There is the other possibility, and a possibility which is good. Professor Rabat mentioned, unfortunately, the problem of peer working and collaboration and so on. It could be a very good possibility. You have somebody to work with, okay, to help yourself as a beginning. Then I recommend that you can go step by step if it's possible. It's better. Because usually when we talk about publication, there are different types. You can have a journal publication, you can have a conference proceedings publication. Okay, usually, yeah, I can dare say this because this is what I have felt myself in my experience. Usually, the conference papers are not that strict and rigid, etc. Okay, so once you are abstract and your paper is accepted, and then you can present it, they are convinced, you can finalize it and then present it. This is one possibility you can do. Okay, start with conference papers, okay, and then move into journal papers. Another possibility, coming back to what you have mentioned in your question, which is review paper or research paper. Review paper could be a possibility as well to start with. Usually you review, what you do in the review, you read the literature about critical thinking, and then you try to summarize it in the form of a paper. This could be a possibility as well, that can be affordable, I think. Okay, and then step by step, by the expertise, you can go into the field. The most important thing is to go forward. Okay, read as much as you can. The tips and tricks about doing publication, the tips and tricks about writing process, language, simple, etc. And then the knowledge, you read about your field as much as you can. This is something very important, because usually what happens is that some students or some new researchers, they tend to want to jump. They want to jump from simple to the, you know, from beginner or let's say elementary level to advanced in a very quickly, just without doing any effort. No, it doesn't work like that. You will keep blocked. Okay, you have to read and read and read as much as possible. You digest everything very well. You can develop an intuition, and then you can go forward into publishing without problem. I can guarantee that for you. Okay, your other question, if you can remind me, anybody can remind me about the other question?
It was about plagiarism and the software for checking.
I agree with you.
Yeah, if you allow me, Yusuf,
yes,
because actually, just to inform students, I think that it concerns all doctoral students at the level of Morocco. Now, the Ministry of Higher Education has purchased a software that you can get if you have your professional university address mail you can have access to it. It's urkund. It's not turn it on. It's urkund, and it's your right to get access to it, so you can submit your work. And so this is why I encouraged you the other day to go to IMIST. IMIST is the library of related to CNRST, and you ask for a professional university to give you a professional email address, and then through this email address you send them a mail, and they give you access to their library first and all their databases. And through the professional email, you can also ask for having access to urkund. So nowadays, every doctoral center in all Moroccan universities have a copy of this software. And starting from next September, every thesis submitted will have to go through the urkund software. So I advise you to try to activate your professional email and try to get the software before, and test yourself the degree of similarities or plagiarism there is in your dissertation, okay, before you submit it to your supervisor. So you don't have to buy one yourself. No, it's the institution. CNRST bought the software. It paid a lot of money for it, and it's your right to have access to it. Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Just let me add, that was the point I wanted to make, my answer for the question of Turnitin. I agree, it is a good possibility. From my experience, because I have used both so far, I think that Turnitin is better, just for to know this, okay, better option than urkund. But still, it's good. It's good. We have something. Another thing I want to say about the idea of using these kinds of softwares for plagiarism checking and so on. We have to have the appropriate philosophy with regard to these software tools. Usually, what's in Morocco, I'm talking, they have a very traditional philosophy. The student finished the work. I am the teacher. I do it in the software. And then if it is the percentage is very high, yeah, bye-bye. No, yeah, this is not. And then the student is lost, and so on. But no, that's not the way how it should be done. The software tools for checking plagiarism, they are kind of helpers. They help the researcher. No matter which researcher, whether you are a PhD student, whether you are a professor even, what you do after you finish your work, you have done your best to paraphrase, you have done your best to cite, you have done your best to do whatever should be done, but still you want to make sure, so these software tools can help you improve. This is the philosophy we have to adopt. Everybody has to have this philosophy. And then my paper, I am a professor, I can put it there and I check if I have my percentage is like 37 or 40, I check the places where it tells me this is a source, whatever. And then I have the incitation, I am encouraged to do a better job, to paraphrase again, to make reference, to make citations, and then reduce the plagiarism level, okay? So that I can submit my paper or dissertation without having any problem regarding plagiarism. So remember that the philosophy with regard to the use of these software tools should be like this. Anybody can go, they are helpers. They are not for blocking the student. They are not for killing the students. The students, I'm not talking about any students, of course. I'm talking about the serious students who are doing their jobs very well. They avoid plagiarism, they paraphrase, they cite and everything. They want to be objective and serious. So for these kinds of students, they do this extra tip, urkund, for example, and then if they have it, they activate it, they can activate it. They go there and check for by themselves, and then they have the sources where they have to improve, and then they improve that, and then that's it. The problem is solved. Okay. So
but I would like here to refer, because there are questions about how to avoid plagiarism. I would like to recommend the presentation I did on literature review, because I really mentioned that in detail. So I really recommend that you go back to that lecture and pay attention to how to avoid falling into plagiarism. Okay. So any other question from within the room? Yeah, Montasir. Yes, please.
Yes, thank
Yeah.
you. All I would like to thank Professor Tamer for this very interesting presentation. And I would like also to thank you, Professor Kirat and Professor Zdari, for the the intense efforts you have made during this period. And since we are living under these hard circumstances during this coronavirus lockdown. So my question is a technical one. It concerns, you have mentioned through one of your slides, Professor Tamer, that the components of methodology can be an integral part of introduction. And I myself, I have read so many scientific articles in which we find this component of methodology within the abstract, not within the introduction. So in the abstracts, I found that, for example, we have the general, the specific context, the methodology, plus results, and sometimes even recommendations. This is for the abstract. So I was to some extent confused with regard to this point. Can you just clarify this this point for me? Thank you very much, Professor Tamer.
Yeah, marhaba. Welcome. I don't think I have said that the introduction should be, we should talk about methodology. Maybe what I have said is to briefly, concisely, accurately say what you did as a methodology. One sentence, okay, maybe two. That's what you can do, okay? Or even the abstract. Make a hint, but don't go into details, of course, okay? Because introduction, just to make an idea, this is briefly one sentence, this is the methodology, and then you move into talking about briefly again, talking these are the results, one sentence, two sentences, and so on, okay? But the details of the methodology, of course, they are left for methodology, where you talk about everything, the number of participants, the number of questionnaires, the number of sites where you have chosen, and instruments for analyzing your data, SPSS or mean or percentage. All these details, they are for methodology section. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Professor.
Any other questions?
I have a question, if possible.
Yes, please, Lubna.
Yeah, thank you very much, professors. I have a question concerning what you said about literature review. There's a point I didn't get well, which is discuss different traditions in literature review. I would be grateful if you could clarify more. My second question is concerned with the diagram you shared about research process. Is it a universal adopted research process? And if it is yes, is there a reliable reference I can look for that in? Thank you very much.
Yeah, welcome, Lubna. So the different traditions, I simply mean the schools and the approaches you are adopting, okay? With regard to the subjects you are investigating, okay? So of course, you are not the first one who is going to investigate what you are investigating. There are people before you, so there is research, there is approaches, okay, that are adopted, okay? So you need to make a reference to those different methods, part of the theoretical background. Concerning the second point, somebody to help me remember the second point. What was it? I didn't get it.
It has to do with the diagram. Yeah, it has to do with the diagram you shared about
research process. Research
right.
process. Yeah. Research process. That's what you are doing. You are doing research, right? You are doing PhD, right?
Right.
Yes. So what you are doing in your PhD, that's the research process. So you have the first phase, which is you read the literature and you understand more what people before you did, and then on the basis of that, you select your methodology and so on, your research question and so on. Second phase, it is the application. You go to the field after knowing what methodology you are going to use. You have, for example, to make it very easy, you want to use questionnaires and you want to investigate teachers. So you go to the teachers, how many teachers? For example, 100, and you give them questionnaires, and these are the questions you have in your questionnaire. So this is the field work, phase 2. You collect your data. And finally, you have the last phase, which is after doing all this, you write and you publish your work, okay? For example, your PhD. When you are going to finish everything, you are going to present the results, discuss them, and then finish your PhD written. Then you can defend it, you submit it for publication. That's your publication phase there, okay? And then another way of doing it is from your PhD altogether, you can choose one aspect that you want to present in the form of a paper. So you are already in the research phase, you are already in the reading and so on, then you collect it, then you want to present the results with regard to one aspect, very limited, accurate, concise aspects. You present in the form of a paper. Then you write your paper and then you publish it. So you see the research process, how it works? This is what I meant by research process.
I'm sorry, my mistake. I didn't make myself clear enough. This is not what I mean. I meant that diagram, is it a universally adopted research process? And if the answer is positive, where can I find that in a reference, in a book? Because this is my area of research. This is what I'm working on. Thank you.
Yeah, because I have it is universal. Okay, that's a universal thing. I will give you because it's in part, it's included in the references in the end of my presentation. I didn't show you the references in detail because I don't think these are, but I'll share with you and the references, okay? And then you can know where I exactly took it, okay?
Thank you very much. Thank you.
If you allow me, you can take any standard social science research methods textbook, and you'll find it in the first chapter or the second chapter. Yeah. Examples are the basics of social science research by Earl Babi, or the practice of social science research by the same author. But generally, any standard social science research method, they refer to scientific research as an inquiry and the social and the research process. So generally, these are sources you can consult. If you're concerned about the originator of the idea, maybe you can dig a bit deeper and find out better sources.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions from the room?
Currently unmuted.
Yes, I have here a question. Can I?
Yes, please.
So thank you very much indeed, Professor Rabat and other professors for the insightful presentations. And I've been here with you following different topics and different presentations given about research methodology, research proposal, and different things.
Your internet connection is unstable.
I'm a blind student from the University of Sidi Mohamed bin Abdullah. I belong to the Cultural Studies Center. And I have a question concerning the publication and the journals. If you have any idea about a journal that is accessible to blind people, that provides more accessibility, so that I can just go there and see the criteria upon which I can rely and then think about what I should do with my articles that I am planning to publish. And I have a request to Professor El-Khairat. Is there any lecture about content analysis and discourse analysis? Because I am concerned more with post-colonial studies and conceptual research. And so far, I am just following the lectures about empirical research and scientific research. Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah.
I don't think I have an answer for the first question. I'm sorry, because it's a kind of it has to do with the people with disability and so on. I don't have really a good answer. I don't know how to deal with that. But usually, I don't know how he deals with websites and so on. I can't really go into this issue of accessibility for disabled. Yeah.
True.
But something we have to work on, because it's something that really we have to work on.
Okay. Yeah, true that there isn't much done on disability and for students with disabilities at the level of the Moroccan university. Actually, I have one of my doctoral students who is also in the same situation. I don't know whether Nabil is here. Nabil, if you are here, can you, because Nabil has is trying hard on his own, and he has fortunately has reached the final stage now. He is really working on just taking into consideration my remarks for before submission of the dissertation. But I don't think that we are aware of, and we are in a position really to answer your question. But I think that we should try to find a solution. Let's try to see whether there are. I am not aware of any personally, because but I think that through research you can. I don't know how you do your research
Can I
on
ask
the
him?
net.
Yeah, that's what the question I want to ask him, just to have an idea. What are the tools that he uses for researching on the internet? Does he have any special tools? Do you have any special tools?
Yeah, in fact, there are some softwares.
There are softwares that Nabil is using. I will put you in touch if you give me your email. I will put you in touch with Nabil. I think he has softwares just at least for reading what he had, doing his readings, doing, for instance, it's not easy. It's a serious challenge. I correct his dissertation and I included my revisions in the margin, and he didn't see them. You see,
that's really
because we had to work and find out how we can. Yeah, so you see, I think he has a software like you that helps him. Yeah,
that's what I know.
Yeah, he has exactly what you are using.
Yeah, that's it. And I think that's the direction. I mean, the same softwares that read the information on websites
for you,
and so on, use them and go on. That's it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So I wish you really good luck. I wish you good luck.
So my request to you was second question is about content and discourse analysis. Can you?
What is your name? Yasin or Yusuf or what? It's Yusuf. I can see Yusuf. For this online training sessions, and we haven't included any, unfortunately. But we will be including what we have not included for this first online webinar sessions. We are planning to have another one in October. So we may consider including it. We are aware that we have not included all aspects. There is, of course, discourse analysis, content analysis, but we do what is available to us, actually. And we see colleagues, we keep writing to people, calling on people to contribute. Not everybody is willing to contribute. It's a lot of time consumed just in trying to find contributors to the program. But I promise, and Professor Zdari should promise with me, that we will really work on it and try to include people or other presentations on discourse analysis and content analysis. And actually, I have in mind somebody for content analysis, a former student of mine who has used the content analysis as a discourse analysis and content analysis in her dissertation. So I'm sure she won't be ready now to do it. And we are also getting tired. You see, we have been working very hard for a month now, and we still have another month to go. So I think that at some point we should give you time to go and assimilate and integrate all what we have given, and then we can come back with new topics, new issues, and we promise to be there again now that we have discovered that this what new technologies are offering us. We will really do it again and again. Okay, so Yusuf, I promise I will try to help. Okay,
Your internet connection.
Thank you.
Okay, so if there is no
Audio submenu. To click the mute my audio.
If there are no questions from inside the room, I want to read the question.
Hello, dear professor.
Who is it?
Yes, hello, dear professor. I'm Nadif.
Nadif, can you? Yeah, I have your question there. It's there. It's open there. Can you? I have a very practical question from Facebook. Let me just ask it. Yeah. So here is a question, and I am sure that everyone has this question in mind. So could you name some applied linguistics journals that have an academic value and that we can trust? So this is a direct question.
Yeah, I can start with one which is affordable, and I think I just published one paper there with okay, co-authored with someone. Okay, let me get you information.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's international journal. There are lists, okay, but this is just one I want to share. Okay, editor. So, for example, there is this one, International Journal of Language and Literary Studies. I think it's a good option for the students you have, because you have a mixture of students from linguistics, applied linguistics, going to cultural studies and into literature.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's one of the journals that can be useful for the students. International Journal of Language and Literary Studies.
Mm-hmm.
I have just published there one publication called The Effect, just maybe like 20 days now. The Effect of Music on EFL Students' Acceptance of Kahoot Gamified Quizzing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, of course, another question on payment. Could you shed some light on the payment to publish? What do you think of the journals that require that you pay?
This is a good question as well. It's going on our context, and there seems to be a kind of misunderstanding. Well, we have to exclude the fraud and the fake journals. I'm not talking about the fake journals that just steal money from people. I'm talking about journals that publish, but they ask for some money. Okay, because usually, and I think there's no problem about that. It doesn't mean that you paid them to publish for you easily. Okay, it means that these people who have a journal, they have some charges, financial charges that they have to pay. Sometimes they could pay the reviewers in order to go quickly for the review process. It could be one way of paying the reviewers. They have to pay for the website they're using. They have to pay for other people working for the journal. Okay, just les frais, ce qu'on appelle les frais of the journal. So there is no problem about paying this small amount of money for these kinds of journals that ask for it. Okay, but there are others that don't ask for money. For example, the one that I have just mentioned, they don't ask for money. Okay, so it's up to you. There could be some journal, they ask for a little bit of money. It could go to $100, something like that. But this kind of money, that could be more. They use it for their charges, paying their charges, website. Maybe they have an office, maybe they have, etc.
Actually, there are journals, as we mentioned, there are predatory journals that set the thing that is, they have no reviewers, there are nothing. You pay an amount of money, and just because, and they give you the possibility, and actually the publishing process is very, very fast. In well-trusted journals, it takes time. That is, sometimes it takes a year and even more. Yes. Because they go by first come, first served, and you can wait for very long before you publish your article. For instance, Elsevier, which is a well-known thing. You can, the cost of the publication depends on the impact factor of the journal you are publishing in. It can reach $1,000. Okay.
Yeah, possible.
Okay, so it depends on the impact factor, and you know what an impact factor, it's the ranking and so on. So this is nowadays it's one of the key criteria for the classification of journals, impact factor. And you know that Moroccan universities, and I know that Moroccan universities give an amount, a reward, a financial reward to professors and also to doctoral students who manage to publish in indexed journals. Scopus, for instance. If you publish a journal, an article, and which is indexed in Scopus, you can ask your university to give you an amount of money. I know that Agadir has this culture. Fas has this culture. Mohamed Fifth University, I don't know whether it is still maintained, but it was there until when I was in charge with the administration. I don't know to what extent whether it is still maintained or not, but paying is normal. For instance, AWJ, see, Iqbal, what does AWJ stand for? It's Arab World or
Arab World Journal of English.
Yeah,
Studies.
for instance, this is a journal, and of course, you have to pay in order to publish with them. And they are specialized in English in particular. They have English, they have translation, they have different volumes on different themes and different topics. For instance, there is a journal on English in the Arab world, okay? And teaching English, be it at the university level or any other level. And you have to pay. For instance, I know one of my students or a number of my doctoral students published there, and the cost can, I was aware that it was $300, and then the student told me that it reached, with some other costs, $500 or $550. But the thing, they publish it, they do have reviewers, because it was reviewed, really the article got published because the student wanted to have an article for her application to positions, and it got published within the period of 3 months. But it was reviewed because I did have access to the remarks of the review, which were to the point. It is I don't think it is indexed in Google Scholar, in academia, and in many different other databases. Okay.
I'm going to share with you in the chat room one journal that is a high quality journal by it is hosted by Elsevier. It could give an idea about this. I will share it in the
please.
Chat room. Okay. So that students can have an idea about high quality. This is a journal about applied linguistics as well. Now, what I want to say here regarding the process, the review process and publishing, something that we have to bear in mind. Because sometimes it might not work, especially for beginners when they send their paper for submission, for publication, sorry, it might be refused or not accepted, etc. I don't want this to be a kind of frustration, because what we have to understand from this process, it is also a learning process. As you have mentioned, Professor Qirat, when you have seen the comments of the reviewers, they were very to the point and very nice. So you are learning. You learn and you apply, and the further you do that, you learn more, and then it will work. So it is like a workshop you are doing. It's like a training you are doing. When you are submitting your paper, you are learning, you are improving, and it goes on like this. It can work, it can't work sometimes, but it's a learning process. That's something we have to bear in mind, not to be disappointed, because it might be disappointing for some students.
Professor Tamer, can
Yes,
we
please.
share this journal, because we have a
Yeah.
lot of followers on Facebook as well?
It is open access.
possible-
It is, yeah, it is open
Is
access.
it possible to share it, please? When Professor Tamer shares the journal on the Zoom room, can you share it on Facebook? Because
I do share it on the live on Facebook. Okay, yeah.
Yes, please. Yes.
Yeah, please. No problem.
Okay.
Yeah,
because
you can keep the discussion.
people have been following us. People have been following us. We want them to take as much advantage of the sessions as the others. We
welcome,
cannot
no
have
problem.
everyone exceed the room Zoom.
Yes.
But at least provide as much information as possible. There is another question before I get to your question, Nadif. I'm not ignoring your question, but there is another question that may concern, of course, yours as well. So here about there is can writing part of our dissertation? You have referred to it, C. Tamer, but the student is still asking. Can writing a part of our dissertation in a form of an article? What's the wrong?
Okay.
So can writing a part of our dissertation in a form of an article enough to be accepted for publishing? I don't understand the
Can
question.
you say that again, Professor? What is it?
Can writing a part of our dissertation in a form of an article enough to be accepted for publishing?
Yeah. I think what he means is that if we can take something from our paper, from PhD dissertation, and publish it in the form of a paper article. That's doable, of course, because the PhD is quite large. There are so many things. It's a very good opportunity for publication, for publishing. You know what happens in Holland, where I was when I was finishing my PhD? For the students who are doing PhD there, you remember Uthman Aitwaras, Professor Khairat?
Yes.
For example, what they do there, their PhD, that's the PhD. They have like 3 papers or 4 papers, and that's the PhD. One paper published here, another paper published here. They group them together, and then they publish them in the form of a book, and that's the PhD. Okay. So what I'm referring here is that it is possible, of course. PhD is a very good mine, gold mine, for anybody to exploit and to publish. So of course you have to organize a little bit and to be accurate and specific, more specific, etc. Okay.
I think that I understood this question differently. I think the question is very ambiguous, and I understood it rather the other way. Can we publish only what we are doing in our doctoral research? That is only what is taken from a doctoral research publishable. You see, I think that this is what the question.
When we are PhD students, when we are doing PhD.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. When a student is doing PhD.
Because the question, can writing a part of our dissertation in a form of an article enough to be accepted for publication? I think that the question is not very clear, but of course, publication, you can publish another research that you want to undertake.
Yes,
for instance.
if the person has the courage and the potential and everything, go for it.
And to go through another process that would involve.
It all depends on the energy of the candidates.
But remember that requirements, at least I'm speaking to the students of the Mohamed V University, the requirement is that at least one of the articles should be directly related to your dissertation.
That's the best way.
Remember,
that's the best way.
This is what I mentioned the other day. You should publish. If you are in, I don't know, you cannot be in literature and come and publish about applied linguistics. It doesn't make sense. Of course, you should publish, one of the articles should be directly related to your research. Okay?
Yes, it's preferable. I agree with you.
So I get to Nadif's question. So Nadif says, My question is related to publishing in Moroccan universities' journals for novice researchers. Would publishing articles in university journals serve well and fit the requirement of the dissertation defense?
It is a good question, I think, it all depends on the type of journal. Okay, the same thing that we have been talking about regarding international aspects, internationally speaking, is applicable to the Moroccan context. So you have to be selective. Okay, there are good journals, there are others which cannot be good. Okay, I don't recommend. So you have to get an idea about where you want to publish, the people working there, and so on. And if they have a good reputation, good publication record, and so on, so go for it. Okay, it could be a good option because you have to keep a link with your context. Of course, you are doing what you are doing for improving your community. Of course, your national patriotism here, but of course, keep with the international perspective. The international perspective can be very useful as well for improving your productivity and the quality of the productivity. Okay, so be flexible, be عينك ميزانك, as we say.
And it depends on the quality of what you have produced actually. And what I recommend personally to my students to rather target international journals. Because if you target especially a journal for junior researchers, it means that, especially if you are taking part of your dissertation and publishing it there, you will not have the right to publish it anywhere else. And this is a journal that does not have a high quality thing or a high reputation, more or less. And if you do so, of course, it can get accepted for the defense. It will be accepted for sure. But for the recruitment, the members of the jury of recruitment will prefer somebody who has published an article in international journal over you who has published it only in a local journal. So I think that you should be ambitious. Of course, we should encourage these local journals, but one should also be ambitious and try to give an international dimension to himself or herself. Okay?
Competitivity, yes. To be
exactly. And especially that in the recruitment, we look at what journals the candidate has really published in.
I did that several times. I had people who published just locally. I prefer the ones who published internationally.
Yeah, of course, because the criteria or the requirements are not the same.
Yes.
Okay, and a person that has an international dimension is much better than someone who is still not. Of course, this does not mean that we devalorize the local thing, but the requirement, the criteria are not the same. Okay, and if you publish this is what I insist on. And if you publish part of your thesis, you don't have the right to republish it in another journal. So if you have made efforts in your work, in data collection and so on, better to target, give it a wider scope, give it, share it or disseminate it at the international level, because this is how you will get. Maybe people can connect, try to look for you, send you, ask for instance, I have co-authored one of the articles with a former student of mine, and he sent me an email just 2 days ago asking me for the authorization, and we published this in L1 Education, for sharing the article with 2 people who found the article and who want to have access to it. So you see, it gives you a wider dimension, and I think it's worth trying despite all the efforts. Okay, any other question? Says Derry, I forgot you. You know, I am very talkative. You should impose yourself. Yeah, any other things to add? Do you agree
It's
with me
okay.
or not?
You've got, since the job is done, it's okay. Yeah, you've said a lot of things that have to be said. Professor Tamir also contributed a very significant lecture with very practical steps. So I'm very happy to hear all that.
Yeah, but
For me,
let's hear your voice as well. So
no,
what do you think of
no,
publishing in
no.
local? Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's one thing that students have to learn is to be strategic. Strategic thinking is very important, and awareness. They can learn a lot while reading for their review of the literature. They learn what journals are valid in their field, which journals are credible. Of course, they may not be able to reach for top-notch journals, or, for example, in applied linguistics, applied linguistics is the probably #1 journal. In second language acquisition research, research in SLA, but probably these are top of the range. And again, they may not, or it's not a good idea to target the easy way out and reaching out for predatory journals. But they should find a way in between. Something journals that are credible, that have good publication record, that take some time during the review process, because that's an indication to the quality of the journals. And another indicator could be the content of the journal, as Professor Tamir mentioned. If you just browse the journal and see the article, and if you can find, I don't know, apples and oranges and plums and things that are not related, I mean that's a red flag. So it's important to target a decent journal, either with publication fee or without, depending on the journal. Probably another thing to target is journals affiliated to universities around the world. For example, this generally relate to your area of expertise. For example, in linguistics, you may be interested in a certain theoretical framework, which is being developed in a certain university, and generally have an annual conference and a journal. And probably if you are working within the same framework and you target that journal, they don't ask you for a fee, and you may be welcome for the conference and welcome to publish, but of course on the condition that you are contributing something rigorous, something solid that will contribute to the theory. Yes.
Yeah, let me just add something with respect to publication. I think that students of English, or someone who masters English, should really make a good use of this instrument or tool that he or she has. Now, leave the publication in local journals or junior researchers' journals to people who do not have access to other international journals. I know that, for instance, I was in charge of the Doctoral Center at the Faculty of Letters. Those who have serious problems publishing articles are students of the who do not master foreign languages and who do not have English or do not master English. You have especially Department of Arabic, Islamic Studies, history, geography. These are the people who submit their articles for the faculty journal. But students of English, I think I never received any article from students of English. There are plenty of opportunities, and I want to say it loudly here. Please make good use. You have to be strategic, as Professor Zaderi mentioned. You have a tool, you have the language. There are plenty of offers for you at the international level in all areas of the world. So look, and of course, be smart as well, and look into, and I think that Abdullah the other day talked about predatory journals because he had an experience with that, or another student had we had an experience with this, one of my students only recently, during, I think it was in April or something like that. So Taha talked about it. So you have to look at the journals, look at the articles that are published there. Just from the language, you will see that there is a problem with the journal, because high quality journals will be very meticulous, will not allow typos, will not allow language problems, will be really very high standard journals. So I think that you are smart enough to depict and find out about good or quality journals, and journals that will make you pay $100 or $150 and publish your article in a month. This is suspicious, okay? So especially if they never get back to you, because so many journals, you send an article, they publish it in a month, and they never get back to you with any remarks. It gets accepted as it is. I don't think that you have, as young researchers, you have achieved or reached the stage where what you produce can be accepted as it is from the first try. I can tell you with our experiences as senior professors, we still submit articles and we receive, there are degrees, the article or the policy brief I told you about has been reviewed by 4 people. Okay, and every time they get back to me, not about changing, but just questions, things that I took for granted myself were not that clear to the people who were reading the article. So they would tell me, no, please, can you give more details about this? Because you know the context, but we don't know it. So can you provide the context? So you see, you should be smart and be able to know which journal is trustworthy and which is not. Okay. Yeah. Any other questions from within the room? Yeah.
Probably Professor Ladnani is raising his hand.
Ah, Professor Ladnani. Ahlan wa sahlan. English, in English. You speak English. Okay, he's a colleague from the department of, yes? No? No,
Yeah.
this is, yeah?
Would you please unmute yourself?
Can you unmute yourself, Professor Adnani? Yeah? Yeah, I think he's no longer. Is it Professor Adnani? I think because when I call him Professor Adnani, the person. Jilali Adnani a levé la main. Yalla, si Jilali. Go ahead. Yes, please, unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. Il faut, yeah? No, we don't hear you. لا نسمعك يا أستاذ. اطلق الصوت ديال No. Can you help Iqbal? Is it we cannot unmute him, can we?
No, we can try and unmute him, but he has to accept.
No?
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
Okay, thank you for all professors. Special thanks to my colleague. We were colleagues in Agadir, Yusuf.
I remember you. I remember you now. I'm having that. It was very short time, and you disappeared.
Yes, you you made for me some abstract to the articles when I participated to the colloque.
I remember you now.
Yes, in Germany. Thank you very much. Thank you, Professor Karat. I want to say something about linguistic turn. It's about what's the works or the writing from some philosophers and anthropologists like as Wittgenstein and Clifford Geertz, who are talking about literature and anthropology, the link between anthropology and literature, considering the culture as a text, the writer or the man as a spider who produced the meaning as a spider. And I don't, I'm asking also for, it's about students or junior researcher. If they go to the data of the National Library, because there are a lot of reviews, journal, and we can find a lot of articles published in English or in other languages. I'm asking also, what is the link between the production in English and the other texts publishing in French or in Arabic? It's all.
Yeah. Professor,
maybe what I can answer is the last question. That's something I have something to say about. But for the first one, that's different from my field. For the last question, for of course, as we know, language English is a lingua franca. Okay, for today, and most of the recent, most up-to-date, most modern, most best quality, whatever adjective you can use in this regard, is produced in English. Okay, so certainly publishing in English in a good quality journal or place, it's a good opportunity. It's a plus for the researcher. But this doesn't mean that publishing in French or in Arabic is not good quality. There are places, I think, and you should know more than me, because you are from, I think, from the Department of Arabic, I guess, yes?
History.
Anyway, it's Arabic. So so I think there could be places where you can have good publications in general, but of course, not the same level as the ones in English. I think you agree with me in this regard, because I have friends from the department of from the Faculty of Science. All the time they are referring to me to correct their English versions, because they know, these people know that everything for biology, physics, and so on, the most top-notch places where they can publish is in English. They give a very good plus for them. But as I told you, writing there could be spots for publishing in Arabic, and this is an area that should be developed. We need more publications in Arabic that are good quality. It doesn't mean that there is no quality at all. There is quality, but some others there is no quality. It is a developing thing. So there could be places which you could know. Okay, I can't give any example in this regard, but I'm sure there are places, good publications in Arabic, but still that need to be developed, and it is a developing process. Okay, same thing for French. French may be in between. So you have, if you can classify things, if you ask me to classify things, I would say that top-notch or number one would be English journals. Then French, there could be some French journals that are well placed, situated, and then have good quality papers, and then Arabic, maybe. I don't know. Do you agree with me some extent, Ustad?
Yes, I agree with you. Yes, yes, I agree with you. But I will ask you also how students can profit from the text publishing in English, in French, and in Arabic about some topics.
For their research,
for their research, for their thesis, in order to produce an article or something.
Yes.
So Yusuf, let me just explain something, just for people who are listening to us. Professor Jilal Al-Adnani is a a senior professor at the Faculty of Letters, Mohamed 50 University in Rabat. He's in the Department of English. He's making effort to speak English. We should really salute his efforts, and he's trying hard to improve his language proficiency in English. So yeah, I just needed to mention it because, yeah, okay.
Okay, that's good to say so for people who maybe don't know him. Sure, if you have a student doing a PhD or research in Arabic, so of course he will be referring and will be reading literature in Arabic, that's for sure. Of course, he will be also reading in French because I suppose students, Moroccan students, they have a good level in French as well. Yeah, and then what needs to be developed, I think, I'm not talking about the coming generations, I'm talking about the already established.
The old, okay.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about the coming, that's another story. Now, the next thing to be done for these researchers in Arabic or are specialized in Arabic or are history doing research in Arabic is to improve their English. That's something that needs to be done. Because when they improve their English, they can get resources and read them in English. Very important resources. And this will help them bring about or produce good research. Okay? So that's, they should benefit from the three possibilities. So English should be improved. They should improve their English, like you are doing, Professor, now, Adnani. I am sure that the fact that you are mastering English helped you a lot. It helped you have access to references in English, which are very important, and you are going to help you in research and will help you to produce good results, good quality papers and research. Okay, so something should be applicable for the other this new generation.
And actually, just to talk about English, it's not. This is not a choice. It's now English has imposed itself as the language of scientific research, and as the language of you know, you look for whatever topic and you will see the number of references you will get in English, and you will see how many references you will get in other languages. And one of the problems actually young researchers fall in is that when they are in a department of Arabic or a department of English or even or French, they limit themselves to the references in one language only. For instance, I always ask students, my students, to look for the references on the topic in Arabic, because there are publications on the topic. When you are working on a topic in the Moroccan context, you should see what people from within the context say about the topic, or in French. And the same thing should apply to people in the Department of French or the Department of Arabic. But the problem is that there is no bridge between these departments or languages, which makes it that those who are, that is the different doctoral programs in the different languages are like isolated islands. Each one works on its island, and there is no one knows what the other is doing. And actually what people should do, and I think that the Ministry of Education has made a great effort recently by signing a kind of agreement with the British Council for offering English classes for free. So you know that there are classes for free in English now, and they target everyone. You can have access to them. I think that the ministry is becoming aware of the importance of English, and they are promoting English at the level of high school and university level.
They're also preparing for the new bachelor program.
Yeah, exactly. And Nasir Al-Adnani, I think that if the reference is crucial to your work, you should have it translated. Better to have it translated, spend some money maybe, and at least be aware of what was done, especially if this reference is crucial to you. Okay? Yeah?
But I would say something.
Yes,
if a student working in Shahrazad text, 1001 Nights, there are some works, good works, published in Arabic, in French. The professor say to the students not to read the text about Shahrazad because it is written or published in French or in Arabic. The student must, I think,
Yes,
read the.
Yes, I agree with you. Everything that is
of course, that is a mistake,
good
and
quality, useful. Yeah, useful. Yeah. No, there's no way of stopping students from having access to a good resource in Arabic, French, or English.
Yes, because in Morocco, in history about and sociology, the most perfect works are published in English. From Guinea, from Gates, or Eichelman, and translated after to French or Arabic.
We have one colleague in our department, one colleague, Stephen Aziza, if you remember him, from Department of English.
Yes.
He worked on the one night, had good research about that. So. In English, and he's producing in English.
Yes, I have a book to review for Hesperius Tamuda, published by my professor Jean-Claude Garcin. Et ça s'appelle l'histoire des textes des mille et une nuits. It's a history about some all manuscripts produced in the Arab world, and the latest manuscripts copy is written by a Moroccan writer living in Egypt qui s'appelle Fakhri.
Yes. اطلبوا العلم ولو كان في الصين.
Okay.
I think that at least for the doctoral students or young researchers in departments of English, I think that they have this advantage of having acquired an English. And I think that for Arabic is not a problem. I know that young generations have issues with French, unfortunately, but this is not an excuse. I think that there are three languages that are crucial for Morocco. There is Standard Arabic, because it's the official language of Morocco. There is French, whether we like it or not. It is the most prestigious language in Morocco. It's the language of the elite and so on. And there is English, which is imposing itself as the language of academia, because actually at the Faculty of Sciences and Schools of Engineering, Faculty of Medicine, colleagues publish in English. It's only in social sciences and maybe social and human sciences where colleagues are still publishing in Arabic or French, because at the Faculty of Sciences, all colleagues publish in English and struggle with the language so as to publish in English, because the high impact journals or the index journals are in English and not in French. There aren't many journals in index journals in French or other languages. Of course, the journals with the highest impact factor are in English. And I think that this is a plus that students of doctoral programs in English have over the other doctoral students. Okay, Zidari, we want to hear you. Anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, it's very important to distinguish between the language of instruction and the topic being investigated. If you at our department, students investigate topics that relate to language, English, but not English, not only English. They might investigate research, educational research. They might investigate cultural aspects, but still the language that they work with is English, and but the topic needs to be researched and understood in various contexts through different languages. Maybe the students might need to be aware with or about the context. For example, in the case of Shahrazad, maybe writings on Shahrazad in Arabic might have a certain perspective. Those written in French may have a different perspective, but it's up to the student to read both, and even maybe writings in English, if they master the language in other departments, and be aware and analyze probably the different approaches to the same phenomenon by different writers. I still remember why it was just in the third side, in the DESA, the old DESA. One of my colleagues or classmates at the time had even research in German in her bibliography. And then the jury members were really curious about whether she read the work, and it turned out that she mastered German as well, and that was a plus. It gave her a plus in her research. So she had references in French, in Arabic, in English, and German as well. So it's the language in which the language of publication. I don't think it's a question. The more languages we read in, the better our research will be. And as long as we are investigating the topic, and if there are any, I don't know, ideological, historical aspects that need to be analyzed, which are due to the language the work is written in, analyzing that will also be a plus. Mm-hmm. So it's I don't think it should be we should have any negative attitude towards reading in this language or that language, as long as we are investigating our topic. And the more light we can cast on that topic, reading in any language, the better. And as you said, we may even spend money translating work that we think is relevant.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Allow me just to answer. There is a remark, because as I mentioned that there are three languages which are essential in Morocco. Somebody wrote a remark about what is Amazigh. I'm sorry, I am Amazigh. I'm a native speaker of Amazigh, and Amazigh is still not in academia. Where is Amazigh? Even its teaching, and I am actually most of my research is on Amazigh language. You know that my Doctoral National is on Amazigh language laws. So I'm not.
D'État.
Yeah, the Amazigh, Doctoral d'État is on Amazigh language laws, and I still publish a lot. Most of my publications is on the revitalization. I supervise dissertations, but Amazigh is still not, even though it is an official language of Morocco, what has been done to make of it really an official language. So let's not be emotional about it. I don't like to be emotional about Amazigh. I'm rather very pragmatic and objective. If Arabic has not been able, standard Arabic, modern standard Arabic, I'm not referring to Darija, of course, has not been able to impose itself. It has been here in the Arab world for centuries. It has not been able to impose itself at the international level in research. What can Amazigh do? And Amazigh is still being developed. It's an oral language for the most part. It still does not have the features of a scientific language. So I don't want you to be emotional about it. If there is anyone who defends Amazigh, I am one of the defenders, but in a very objective and reasonable way. I don't want to feel emotional about it. Okay. So any other questions, please, from within the room? Sis Derry, can you see if you have any other questions?
I surveyed, yeah, we have Ladibi Manal who's raising her hand.
Yeah. Manal?
Yes. Yes, thank you very much, Professor Tamit. So my question is whether you always receive feedback for the papers that you send to the journals. For example, if they're not going to publish your paper, do you receive any feedback on how ways to better your paper?
Yeah, it happened sometimes. The idea of receiving feedback, that happens all the time. Okay, anytime you send the paper, they don't accept it from the beginning. Yeah, okay. Like it's for granted. So that's why when I spoke about this, I said that it's a learning process. So you are going to learn. So you learn from them, and then you apply, and then it can be published. Sometimes it's refused. Okay, it happens.
So even if it gets reviews, you still get the feedback.
If you don't apply, sometimes it happens that you don't get a good understanding of something, and you don't apply what they wanted. So it happens.
Oh, okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Of course, there are journals that, of course, need a lot of time before they react or send you an answer. You send it, and it can take 6 months before they just get back to you to tell you it is under review or it is rejected. So some really high, well-known journals can take up to a year sometimes to react to your paper. So be patient. It's not a fast process. It takes time to do so. And of course, if you want to give yourselves the better chance to have your articles at least accepted for consideration and for review, you should absolutely, before submitting the article to the journal, get into the website of the journal, look at the style sheet. Do your best to use the style sheet that is adopted by the journal, so as not to have to rework on the style sheet. Because if you submit it this way, at least just the fact of having taken the time to look at the criteria, and most of the journal tell you actually, when you say submission of paper, they give you the style sheet there. So try before submitting your article in a haphazard way. And from one journal to another, there are different style sheets. Not all journals have the same style sheet, okay? Whether it is in referencing or in even the format of the article. And here I would like to ask a question to Professor Tamer with respect to one of the students says, is it possible, because in the presentation you referred to the fact, and this is something also Professor Badr referred to, that we should use the results and then the discussion. What about when this can apply when we have quantitative approach? Should we do this even when we have a mixed approach with quantitative and qualitative approach, or can we mix proceed to the analysis and discussion without having to present the results? Okay.
Yeah, I think it applies for both of them. The structure is the same. So whatever kind of method you are using, qualitative or quantitative. So the methodology followed by results. Results, you produce the results, of course. You say this number of people said this, but you don't interpret. Okay, there is no interpretation. After that, in the discussion, what is the role of the discussion and the conclusion? It is to interpret what you got as results. That's what I.
And what about the interactive data analysis approach?
Can you give me an idea, for example?
Where actually you present the data and the interpretation at the same time. And I personally favor this one. Interactive, that is, you have mixed approach with quantitative and qualitative data. And when it comes to, because if you introduce the results and then you go to the interpretation, there will be a lot of redundancy. So what you do, you try to organize your data according to your research questions, and then you present. And of course, you do within the same thing, introduce the results, the quantitative and then the qualitative, and then you discuss it.
We discuss everything.
Everything.
And then finish with a conclusion after that.
Exactly.
We summarize.
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm talking, the IRMAD structure that I refer to is the one that is international in terms of publishing. So just to bear it on that.
If I may add something here about publications in linguistics, especially theoretical linguistics, within approaches that do not take an empirical approach, especially theoretical linguistics without quantitative data and all that. Generally, there is a research question and a hypothesis, but it's not written in a method section. It's you can start with the questions and the background of your study, and try to elaborate the question that you're going to try to answer, and then in your sections go thematically. Not you're not, since or the writer does not follow the IMRAD, the MRAD method by word for word, but generally start with the questions and its importance, and then move on to the empirical evidence to substantiate the claim. And the different sections will be on offering empirical evidence from language data with examples and all that. And then by the end of the article, the discussion may not be called discussion, but it will be again another thematic section in which you will try and draw the implications of your empirical results, which are the evidence you provided, to the theory building as a whole. And you try to provide possibly a more uniform analysis of a linguistic phenomenon, and you try to revise your data. Because sometimes, I'm saying this because sometimes students from working on theoretical linguistics topics try to find themselves confused within this quantitative tradition reporting on statistical results. There is linguistic research which can be situated within this empirical approach, and can report on empirical findings using the method, the background method, and results and discussion section. But if the work of the research is of an purely theoretical nature, what matters is the evidence that you provide, and that's your results, and the implications of these findings to the theory that you are advancing as a whole, and that should be in the discussion. So it's a completely different paradigm.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
We haven't. Yeah, Professor. Yeah.
No, I just said yes. I confirm.
Mm-hmm. So
that's
we
why
haven't.
We have to refer.
Yeah, as you may have noticed, we never look at the watch. We enjoy the sessions so much that we don't even pay attention to the time. And if you come to calculate the number of sessions we have spent with you all, you will realize how much time we have spent with you. So I think that I will ask for maybe, is there any pertinent question on Facebook, maybe?
I surveyed some, but we try to answer.
I have addressed most of them. Is there any question from within the room? So if there are no questions.
Hello, Professor.
Munya, you always wait until the end, but don't be too long. It's already 8:15. Yes, please.
All right. Okay.
Go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
It's a pleasure to participate.
Go ahead. Welcome.
Yeah. Okay. So I would like to thank Professor Tamir, of course, first for his informative and enlightening presentation, and of course, Professor Al-Qirat and Professor Zedari for your fruitful discussion. I just would like to go back to the point of publishing 2 articles before defending your thesis. I'm talking to the doctoral students. As far as I know, they have to publish 2 articles before they are able to defend their thesis. I mean, and you mentioned something very important, which is they should look for very renowned journals, and I totally agree. And you also mentioned that one of the articles should be related to their field of specialization or the topic of their dissertations. And I would recommend, and I would like to hear Professor Al-Qirat's opinion. So I would recommend that the second article should be related to language learning and teaching issues, because during the recruitment process, you are most likely to be asked a question related to teaching methodologies, how you're going to teach, for example, a particular learning skill like reading, writing, speaking, productive or receptive skills, or for example, how you're gonna create an enjoyable and effective learning environment, because the jury members are looking for good teachers as well, of course, besides being a good researcher. So I think if this can help you, even doctoral students have little or no teaching experience, doing research, focusing on teaching and learning issues can save their lives, and why not? They can get the job as a university teacher. So I would like to hear Professor Qiraat's opinion. And of course, I thank you again for your continuous support, because without your support, I wouldn't have really, published the article and got a good job. Thank you very much again.
You're welcome, Munya. You're welcome. Thank you for bringing this issue actually on the table. I think it's crucial as well, because many students, when they want to register for their doctoral dissertation, choose some topics that are outside the areas of studies of a department of English. And normally, most of the students are targeting the university and have as an objective to join a university and to join a department of English. I had to tell a number of students, of course, to always, when they address an issue that has nothing to do with English or with at least either cultural studies, it should be related to cultural studies, literature, media studies, linguistics, or whatever, not something that will find no place in a department of English, because this is exactly one of the criterion for the selection. And Professor Zaderi and Professor Tamer I'm sure will confirm this. When we receive the applications, we have a profile for the position. And we are looking for a teacher of English before we are looking for first element is it applied linguistics? Is it social linguistics? Is it cultural studies? Is it media studies? Is it literature? Yes, and so all the areas where there is a need in the department. And then comes research. Is the person, has the person published? What is the quality of publication, and so on and so forth. This is for the first round selection on the basis of your file. This is how it goes. And Munya is really, Munya's remark, I thank you really for bringing it, because it's crucial. So of course, publishing, you should absolutely try, especially if you are targeting teaching, you should absolutely try to have teaching experience. And this is why actually in the doctoral programs, we do give opportunities to students to get involved in teaching, either with the department or teaching English to students from other departments or whatever. So try as much as possible to try to gain this experience and getting involved at the university. I know that there are, maybe it's more difficult to have this opportunity in some universities than others, but I know that in far universities located in far areas, the students have a better opportunity to get a position and teach in the department. Okay, so try as much as possible. Munya is right. Try as much as possible to get those certificates, to have them on your CV, to have this experience, teaching experience in your CV. Get also interested in all what is happening at the university level. You cannot be a doctoral student preparing your doctorate and planning to join the university without knowing what is happening at the level of the university. What is a module? How are modules? What is the makeup exam? And how is an accreditation? All this, or now that the bachelor program is coming, you should be aware, you should be following. This is part of your training as well. You should be following what is happening in the educational system and how things are changing. And because this is what a department of English will be looking for, or a department of French will be looking for, to find out to what extent you are aware of the situation at the university level, of the teaching methods, true, of all the other aspects that are related to teaching. Any other things to add, Si Yusuf and Si Zidari?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's that's part of being strategic. Again, I remember when myself I was doing my doctoral research, I went into applied linguistics because I always cherished a keen interest in linguistics because I was targeting a position at the Department of English, and to make myself useful to so that I could market myself, I need to be more flexible, more polyvalent, if I may say so. It's very important to know what you're doing and try. Maybe you might develop an interest in a topic which is a bit peculiar, or which is, but still you need to have some experience, publication record that relate to the context you're applying for. Others may have different planned trajectories. For example, if you'd like to be, I don't know, a consultant in or create your own organization, maybe you may have a topic which is quite different, or it depends on your interest. But if your interest is to join the English department, you should know what we're doing. You've been a student, and you know the kind of courses you'll be called upon to teach, and you need some your research, your teaching experience should work in your favor. So this goes without saying, of course. Maybe if I may respond to Professor Munia's question, maybe it's not the second article that should be on the teaching. Maybe a third article or a fourth article, or maybe the first one. It's if you have two articles. If students generally take their master thesis and convert it into an article, and if the chances that they change the topic during their doctoral research, then it will be completely different. They will need a second article on their doctoral research, and maybe a third could be on teaching methods. And as Professor Khaled said, it's much your knowledge and your experience in teaching that matter most, because you cannot research everything in a way.
So Yusuf? Yeah, Professor Tamer?
Yeah, I just want to add one thing. In addition to trying to have an experience in teaching, I also recommend to do training, teacher training, to have an expertise, not only in experience, but also in terms of knowledge, what's going on in the theory and how to do things. That would be much more important, much more useful. Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Yeah. Yes, Munia, you wanted to add something, because I need to close the session.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you for your remark, because that's very crucial. And I'm sure that it will really help many students think and get ready for the future, because as Professor Zidari mentioned, if you have other plans than the university, you can work on any topic you want. But if you have plans for joining the university, then you have to be very careful. And I encourage my students to go for the CELTA, and if at least for the CELTA, this is a certificate that gives you a grade, a bonus, and that actually Munia, who is speaking, she was privileged because of that, and because of the long experience in teaching as well that she had. And she applied, I think it was maybe the second application, and she got accepted because she has a CELTA. Why not try even the Delta? Now, there are possibilities that we couldn't have. Now, my case is even worse than yours. That we didn't have such opportunities. They were not available to us. So now you have this opportunity, and I think you should seize it. It's really, you have to be strategic. Professor Zidari mentioned it. I will keep repeating it. Strategic. Be strategic. Think of what, why, and how. So keep the 3 questions. What do you want to become in the future? What do you want to do? Why do you want to do it? And how can you reach it and do it? Okay, so with this, I think that we have lost Professor.
Yeah, one more thing. I just would like to say that I'm ready to deliver a session related on teaching and learning related issues.
Yeah, you told me. Yes, we will schedule it. Munia is what is it? What did I say? CELTA trainer. So we will have her give some sessions, training sessions for you. Okay? Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Miriam. Thank you, Munia. I think we have lost Professor Youssef. We want to thank him.
I think so.
Oh, we lost him, but we need to thank him. We cannot.
Yeah, for the record.
I am back.
Oh, yeah.
My connection, something wrong with my connection, so I'm now connecting from my mobile, so I don't know what happened.
Okay.
Let me do the video.
Where is it? Yes. Okay. So with this, so I'm happy you're back. So as to thank you for this really very insightful, very informative
I'm happy to hear.
presentation. You see the time, we have been here for 3 hours and a half. I don't think that people would have had the patience to stay here if it wasn't really interesting and relevant to there. There is Manal Aribi raising her hand. I don't want to make anyone feel frustrated. Manal, what do you want to say?
No, I was just clapping. It's
applauding. Okay, please, can you all clap there? All of you. Yeah, all of you at once. I don't know how to do it myself. I don't know.
Yeah.
How do
I do it?
It's reactions. There is an icon, reactions in the Zoom control.
Yes.
The Zoom control?
Yeah, at the bottom. At the bottom.
Bottom right.
On the right. Reactions.
Oh, reactions, yes.
Yeah.
So
you just click it and
raise hand.
Yeah. Okay. Now you have the thumbs up.
Oh, yes. Okay. So thank you very much. Really, we enjoyed listening to you. I'm sure.
My pleasure. Really, my pleasure to be with you.
Learned things, so you will stay on our list. We will surely get back to you on another occasion, so that you give maybe more details about this, about the same topic, if you can carry on further with the topic. Okay?
Yes, inshallah.
So,
welcome.
Thank you so much. It was a real pleasure to see you. And I would like to give the floor to Professor Zdari to tell us about the program. I didn't have a look at it myself today. So what is the...
There are certain modifications to the program, and I think the next session will be on sampling, and we will have it on the 29th, I think, followed by
what? So there are no. So we have no sessions tomorrow and after tomorrow.
No session. No. We'll have some
rest.
Yeah, some rest. We'll have some rest tomorrow. 29th will be a Monday. So 29th will be a Monday. And we'll have the session on sampling. Followed by a session on questionnaire design. Administration and coding on the 13th.
And then
on the second, I think we'll have Professor Andrew Smith on the 2nd, I think. Anyway, we will get back to our students and followers with the latest version of the program as soon as possible. So, and of course, the events will be updated on our Facebook, so that students could register before the lectures, before the webinar.
Okay, I'm very happy I'm clapping because we will have a break. I'm clapping because it has been very intense. It has been really,
well deserved.
So we really deserve this break. I hope you will all enjoy the break, but at the same time go back and try to take advantage of all what
Professor Khairat, just one I don't know, maybe you are doing it, but just to help in order, because you know that students, we need to push them a little bit. just to request from the students to make a summary of all the presentations.
Yeah, of course.
This
is, we have already
planned.
said it.
Yeah,
This is planned.
Well done.
This is planned.
I upload.
Yeah. Okay. So a reminder. Remember, we said it from the very beginning. You should absolutely. This is the best way for you to remember, and especially your report should include the takeaways and the tips. Okay. And we have designed. Actually, see, Yusuf, we have planned a session where students, and we would like you to be there with a session with question and answers from the students meeting, and of course, and then another session with, we have involved in some students for giving us an evaluation after they have reflected on how much they have learned from this experience. So we really require you all to write a short report, precise and concise, about the takeaways. That's the most important things. And what was the topic, and you know how a report is, with the date, title of the thing. You know, maybe we should give you a sample of Professor Zaderi. Maybe we should, we will give you a sample to follow so as to make the task easy for you. Okay, so thank you very much. It was really a very enjoyable session, very insightful, informative session, and we wish you good rest, all of you. So go and relax for some time. So we do have a real break, and see you on Monday, 29th. Okay, so take care, all of you. See, Yusuf, you can stay for a while with us? Yeah, you know.
Yes, sure. Yeah, I am.
So I invite the students to leave the room, please.
Would you please stop the streaming, Professor?